Joshua, call the roll, please.
Uh, Commissioner Jones-Chance,
Yes.
Commissioner Dunwoody,
Present.
Commissioner Simmons, Commissioner Davis Jr.,
Present.
Commissioner Hollyfield,
Present.
Commissioner Smith, Commissioner Shear, Commissioner Marin, Commissioner Woodring.
Okay, sounds like we have a quorum. I did receive communications from both Carl Shear and Amanda Smith about absence today.
Greg also provided an email, and uh, Commissioner Simmons mentioned to me in a call like 2 months ago that he might not be able to make it.
Okay. Is there a motion to excuse?
So moved. Support.
Moved and supported. All in favor?
Aye.
Ayes have it. Next item on the agenda is agenda approval. Has everyone had a chance to review the agenda? Are there any proposed changes? Hearing none, a motion would be in order to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Moved.
Or.
Supported. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. Next item on the agenda is approval of the minutes. Has everyone had a chance to review the minutes? If so, a motion would be in order to approve.
So moved.
Support. Moved and supported. All in favor?
Aye.
Ayes have it, unless there are any objections. Next item up is public comment. This is a period for comment from anyone here in person or on Zoom who would like to speak on a matter that is not a public hearing for this evening. So that is anything that is not related to dark sky compliance, the dark sky compliance ordinance, the 1901 North Huron River Drive Group Childcare Home, the 775 South Grove Drive-Through Pharmacy, the 402 South Washington Street Triplex Development, the 421 Emmett Street Multifamily Renovation Site Plan, the 315 Washtenaw Ave Multifamily Renovation Site Plan. Anything?
Those aren't public
Those
hearings.
are not public hearings, sorry. Strike the last two. Anything other than those, please feel free to comment. You have 3 minutes per comment.
I'd move to open the public comment.
Thank you. Moved and supported. All in favor?
Aye.
Is there any opposition? Ayes have it. Public comment is now open. If there's anyone in the audience who would like to speak, come up. Joshua, if you could check online to let us know if there's anyone there, that'd be great.
There's nobody online.
Okay, is there anyone in the audience for public comment? Once, twice. Motion would be in order to close public comment.
So moved.
Don't really have to. It's moved. Any support? Moved and supported. All in
Who-
favor?
Who moved and who supported? Okay.
Phil. Me.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, next item on the agenda, our committee reports, non-motorized advisory committee.
I was not able to attend the last meeting, and I don't have any draft minutes yet. So give you that next month.
Thank you. Next item up is presentations. We have our project report.
Yeah, so I remember in June, in May, the Planning Commission was interested in kind of getting an idea as to where certain projects that received administrative approval are in terms of their development. I also included just a few other things as well. I kind of, even though I mean, I've been here for a year and a half, I kind of wanted to start fresh and go back to all the projects that we have done since I've been here. It won't take super long. I will quickly go through them, but if y'all have any questions or comments, feel free to let me know. So moving on, 10 South Prospect, Stephanie Quinn, she submitted both a special use permit and a site plan application for a veterinary urgent care clinic. The Planning Commission approved the application with conditions, and the applicant ended up submitting their final plans on October 17th of 2024. To which staff found that they addressed each of the conditions that were requested and requested the building department issue their CFO. One of the things I wanted to mention, and I realized I didn't have enough time to do this just yet. At some point, I am going to be sharing a OneDrive link with all of you guys, and that's going to include their final site plan and the action notification. That way you have that easily for reference. So, stay tuned for that. And presently now the business is opened and it's fully operational. I was also given a tour of it and it's very nice. So if anybody needs veterinary clinic to go to, I highly recommend them. And then here's just a picture of the rear. I thought I included, oh yeah, and then you have the picture of the front. For 136 North Washington, this applicant proposed a PUD in-site condominium at 120 and 124 Pearl. They proposed, the proposal would develop the parking lot north of 124 Pearl, creating a 6-story mixed-use structure. The Planning Commission recommended conditional approval of the application to the City Council during their May 15th, 2024 meeting. City Council conditionally approved the application during their July 2nd, 2024 meeting, with one of the conditions requiring that council will approve the PUD agreement just because it wasn't ready at the time. On March 4th of 2025, it's quite a long time, the City Council approved the PUD agreement, and it was successfully submitted to the county on May 8th of 2025. The applicant, which this I didn't know until recently, I thought the applicant received HTC approval prior to getting Planning Commission approval, but the plans were actually approved in concept. They were not fully approved. And so they received full approval at the HTC's May 15th meeting. And now presently the developer is undergoing detailed engineering. Our engineers did conditionally approve the plans on June 2nd of 2025, but we have not received any of those any items addressing any of those comments since. And additionally, the city attorney has requested a letter of credit as a performance guarantee rather than having a performance bond, just because that's what he prefers. Here's a picture of existing conditions as of like a couple days ago. Nothing's changed. We have 201 North Park. The applicant received approval. This is not supposed to be, oh wait, yes, never mind. It is right. Okay. The applicant received approval for the adaptive reuse of an existing structure back in 2008. This was not an adaptive reuse PUD. They're just taking a building and, adaptively reusing it as something else. In 2020, staff realized that the work was occurring and informed the applicant that the project approval had expired back in 2010. The applicant reapplied for approval in September of 2020, and the Planning Commission approved that application in October of 2020. The applicant failed to diligently pursue construction, leading to a site plan expiration letter being sent on June 25th of 2020. It was not 2025, it was 2024. And the applicant then reapplied and received approval from the Planning Commission again during their September 2024 meeting. And the applicant is presently in detailed engineering, and staff has gone back and forth with the developer since September of 2024. Most of the revisions that have been requested are complete. However, each submittal either fails to address conditions or creates new nonconformities. So that one's still a work in progress.
Are they occupied right now?
Yep. They are without a certificate as
Mhm.
well. So I believe they are receiving daily fines from the building department. And then here's pictures of the existing condition. Staff, myself, and code enforcement, code enforcement, and the building department have all been pursuing enforcement to varying degrees, to try to get the site also cleaned up as much as possible. So there is stuff happening. I can't guarantee as to when the parking lot will be completed, but they are also coming upon their 1 year of approval. And now they are still technically working through detailed engineering. And so, it's open for interpretation as to whether or not we can, allow them to continue working. But I will say that if work is not diligently pursued and we don't receive anything within the coming weeks, staff will issue a site plan expiration letter again. 206 North Washington, the applicant proposed a 22-unit affordable housing development in place of an abandoned and dangerous apartment building. They received approval from the Planning Commission during their February 15th, 2023 meeting, and the applicant also underwent a community benefits process due to the proposed pilot. The applicant officially bought the property from the city in 2025 and demolished the dangerous structure in July and August of this year. And they will be hosting a groundbreaking event next week. So that is very exciting. 218 Forest, East Forest, the High Scope submitted an adaptive reuse PUD application to activate a vacant church into a community learning resource center. The Planning Commission recommended approval to City Council in August of 2024. City Council approved the application in October of 2024, also requiring that City Council will review and approve the PUD agreement. City Council ultimately ended up approving that PUD agreement in July of 2025, and High Scope has now pulled building permits and have begun work. Here's just additional pictures. You can see that there's a little bit of work happening on the side of the building. 326 East Michigan, the Youth Arts Alliance submitted a site plan application for the construction of an arts and crafts studio on a vacant lot. The Planning Commission approved the application conditionally at their April 2025 meeting, and the applicant is presently undergoing the detailed engineering review process, and we're waiting on review comments from our engineers. For 611 West Cross, it used to be a vacant bank building. It was, and it was proposed to be redeveloped into a new credit union. It was approved by the Planning Commission, Planning Commission recommended approval to City Council on May 18th of 2022, and the site and City Council approved that on July 12th of 2022. The following approval, the developer, they nearly completed construction, but they wanted to have a monument sign with uplighting, which do not comply with the zoning ordinance. And so they requested departures from the Planning Commission and City Council. Of the two departures that were requested, the monument sign was approved, but the uplighting was not. And City Council also approved what the Planning Commission recommended on July 15th of 2025. They are almost done. I have to do a site inspection sometime this week, but it is exciting to see, this shiny new building. 612 South Mansfield, OKD Transport submitted a site plan application to activate a vacant building for truck repair, truck storage, and office services use. Planning Commission conditionally approved it in September of 2024, and the applicant has undergone detailed engineering and a pre-construction meeting was held. So they are good to begin construction, and we expect that to be done, begin pretty soon. 708 Pearl, the developer proposed the construction of a quadplex on a vacant lot. They initially received approval in December of 2018. However, no building permits were pulled, so their approval expired. The developer reapplied to the Planning Commission, which the Planning Commission conditionally approved in May of 2024. One of the conditions of that approval was requiring the granting of a variance from the ZBA, which was granted in May of 2024. Since then, the applicant has undergone detailed engineering and a pre-construction meeting was held. And as of this week, I've noticed that they have started beginning construction. Like not construction, but like site work to prep themselves for construction. So that is also really exciting. 711 Pearl, Beal Properties, they're proposing to construct a duplex. The property is located within the core neighborhood zoning district, so duplexes are permitted by right. In the levels of review chart, duplexes do not require Planning Commission approval, but it's exciting to see a gentle density being implemented into the neighborhood. And right across the street from 708 Pearl, which is fun. 815 North Huron River, the Planet Jane applied to convert their existing marijuana micro business strictly into a retailer. Property being in the general corridor zoning district required the submittal of a new site plan and a special use application. The Planning Commission approved the application during its September 2024 meeting, and Planet Jane has completed the work and is presently proposing to transform the former grow rooms into new retail spaces. As of right now, I don't know what those retail spaces will be, but more soon on that. For 915 West Michigan, developer proposed the conversion of a vacant building into a marijuana retailer. They initially received approval in November of 2021. However, after finding the green roof was simply not feasible, the applicant applied to amend the special use. One thing to keep in mind is they ended up being granted that license because they had a green roof by the city. That was like during like the point metric to determine who would get a license. And so, they underwent this process and the Planning Commission postponed the application in May of 2025, but they conditionally approved the amendment during the June meeting. As of now, they've addressed most of the Planning Commission conditions. However, they are waiting on their right-of-way permit from the Department of Public Works. Enough with the new projects. There's a couple of new businesses that I wanted to highlight that have opened in the city recently. At 11 East Cross, we have Ohana Lounge. They are a cafe and event space lounge, and they also have a podcast studio. We have 12 West Michigan, which will be known as Penny Roll. They'll have hours of operations Monday through Friday from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. They will be serving Australian style sushi, and they will be strictly a takeout and delivery restaurant. For 56 North Huron, Living Color Juice Bar is proposing to open. Their hours of operation will be Monday through Saturday, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., and then Sunday, 12 p.m. to 6 p.m. And they will have a juice bar that will include juices, smoothies, and acai bowls. Fun and interestingly enough, and I think it's really cool, one of our parking enforcement officers is actually opening this business with somebody else. So it's nice to see an employee of the city investing into a downtown space. And then the final one I wanted to go over was 200 West Michigan, which will become, I don't know if everybody heard this, but it will become Bella Vita Bistro and Catacombs. Hours of operation will be Sunday through Saturday, 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. The primary floor will include a French-Italian bistro, while downstairs will include a jazz club. So I believe that's all I have for, okay, there we go. So that's it.
All right, thanks very much. Okay, we will move to our old business items, the first of which is the public hearing for the dark sky compliance ordinance. A motion would be in order to open the public hearing. If
I moved.
Second.
moved and supported. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes have it. Is there a presentation, Josh?
Yes. So did you guys vote to open the public comment? Did you
Did.
close it?
Yes.
Yes. Oh, sorry. I did not pick up on that. I apologize. Who voted to close it?
There's these two, I believe, right?
Okay.
Those two closed it.
Perfect. Thank you. Yeah, so let me go ahead and share my screen again. Okay, that was not supposed to go all the way up there, but that's okay. Okay. So have the dark sky compliance ordinance. I already went over the impacts of inappropriate exterior lighting and what it does for wildlife and ecosystems, human health, the impacts on energy and climate, impacts on crime and safety, which I know a lot of people, when this was initially proposed, were concerned about the dark sky compliant ordinance. And in fact, one of the news stations mentioned or provided an example of just making all the lights go dark and saying that this is what our city could look like, and that's not the case. But I also know people were concerned about crime, and fortunately, there has been numerous studies done on dark sky compliant lighting and what that does in regards to crime. Now, this is in England, but researchers found that streetlights don't prevent accidents or crimes, but they do cost a lot of money. And this was data based on 62 local authorities in England and Wales. There was a New York public housing study that attempted to reduce crime by temporarily increasing lighting over 3 years. They found that the nighttime crime fell by 45%. However, the fixtures that were implemented were 600,000 lumens. It's important to note that the average streetlight has produces 5,000 to 35,000 lumens, and stadiums have an average lumen of 100,000. So the crime wasn't reduced because it was brighter. I mean, it did reduce because of the brightness, but it simply reduced because it was way too bright, and so the environment was just uncomfortable for people. I also provided an example of, you know, the impacts of exterior lighting as well, where you have the glare from the floodlights and you can't see, but in the corner there is somebody, which you'll see once with the hand. I guess you can't see it as well on the screen, but I promise there is a person that is there. And then going over the ordinance timeline, on February 19th, 2025, the staff introduced a discussion for a dark sky compliant ordinance. Since February, the Planning Commission and staff have been working out the language and logistics of this ordinance. Public hearing held today. And if this Planning Commission recommends approval of the ordinance to the City Council, then the ordinance will be brought to the September 23rd, 2025 City Council meeting, because I'll ultimately have to public notice that the ordinance. If council approves the first reading of the ordinance, then it will be brought to council for its second reading on October 7th. And then if they approve it on October 7th, there will then be the 30-day protest period, and the ordinance will go into effect after that. In terms of modifications, we made modifications to these specific sections of the zoning ordinance. And then looking at the 5 principles of responsible outdoor lighting, this is from Dark Sky International. They provide, the list of 5 principles, them being useful, targeted, low lighted, controlled, and warm colored. The present ordinance ultimately fails to meet all principles of the responsible outdoor lighting, and improvements were needed across the board. And then in terms of how the proposed ordinance compares, it does meet each of the principles in varying degrees. Arguably, Principle 2, Principle 3, and Principle 5 were the principles that our ordinance best took on those elements, I guess. But also, we do have we have addressed each of those principles in varying ways through this new ordinance. And then I didn't include the actual ordinance in this specific section of the presentation, but I do have it on the packet. Let me just pull that up. Okay, so I'm gonna share. So hopefully that'll pop up pretty soon. Yes, perfect. Okay, so here is the staff review of the text amendment. Already went over, the summary, the background. We have the current ordinance, comparing it to the proposed ordinance. As you can see, there is a lot of new language with this new ordinance, especially with definitions. So those have been highlighted. And then the new section 122-609, even though we have it existing, it's basically been entirely rewritten. So the language itself is pretty much entirely new. It keeps some of the elements of the former ordinance, but not really at the same time. And so we have the purpose, applicability, the light fixture specifications, the administrative requirements, and the administrative requirements. And then for signage, I will say I dove a little bit more into sign illumination compared to what was proposed in June, just because I realized that the ordinance that was proposed was still just very vague, and it wasn't very specific, and I don't think it really accomplished what we were trying to. And so 122-655D, this would be a new section of the ordinance, and it would be for sign illumination. Right here we have applicability, general standards for sign illumination, lighting levels, and the general standards. I don't know if you all have had a chance to look through that new proposed language, or if you wanted me to go over anything in particular with the sign illumination.
Has anyone not had a chance to go through these items? Sounds like it's not necessary.
Sounds good. Right below that, we have the standards for amendments. And I provided my recommended motion down below. So, yeah.
Thanks. Looks like we've gone a little bit out of order here. We should probably be starting the public hearing now, but we're in it. And so if there are any questions for staff, we can do those now. There will be time for discussion and debate after the close of the public hearing if a motion is made. So please keep any opinions and things other than questions for after the hearing is closed.
Brian, I just wanted to verify one thing, Josh, that I believe we discussed at a previous meeting, when we had our council liaison here.
Mhm.
The city's own actions they're not applicable to the zoning code. Right?
Yes.
So we're not talking about streetlights.
No.
The city can do whatever they want with the streetlights, which is
Does-
why they look the way they look
Mhm.
today. Okay.
Yeah.
Wanted to verify that that
Yeah.
information hadn't changed.
Yeah.
City, the county, and the state can do whatever they want.
Thank you, Brian.
Are there any other questions for staff? Okay, seeing none. Since we've already opened the public hearing, now would be a good time to have members of the community who would like to speak on the proposed zoning change here. Is there anyone online?
Mhm.
If anyone in the room would like to speak, you'll have 3 minutes.
Don't have anybody online.
Okay, looks like no one in the room either. So a motion would be in order to close the public hearing.
Or
Moved.
Second. Oh, go ahead.
No one moved it, right?
Yeah, nobody opened. We
Oh, we
opened
did.
it at the beginning and then
Yes.
closed it.
Yeah.
That's what I meant by we went out of order.
No, I meant Phil said support, but who were you
I
supporting?
don't think a motion was
Okay,
made.
yeah.
Oh,
Wait, I'm very confused.
A
Hold on.
motion would be in order to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Okay. Is there any support?
Wait.
Okay, moved and supported. I don't know who moved. You can choose. Mr.
moved.
Burns?
Well,
Okay.
No, we opened the public hearing at the beginning and
This
then
was
we
to
closed
close.
the public hearing and now we're closing it again.
No, we
First
have not,
one
we have
didn't
not
count.
closed it. Yeah.
Brian,
There's
went-
a
we
public
went out of
hearing
order.
for the dark sky compliance.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes, it has been opened. Slightly out of order.
Uh-huh.
And now this last motion was to close it. That has been moved and seconded.
Thank you.
Okay, all in favor of closing the public hearing?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, ayes have it. Okay, now we can get into some discussion by the commissioners on the proposed amendment.
I personally don't have any discussion points, and I'd be ready to make a motion whenever the discussion is closed.
Okay. Is there anyone else?
I do have a quick question. Under hours of illumination, way close to the motion, so you're probably all near that area. Sign lighting shall be turned off between 11 PM and 6 AM or 1 hour after business closing, whichever is later. The business closes at 6. Why would we say it has to turn off at 11? Wouldn't it be whichever is earlier?
Yeah, we could do that.
I mean, does that meet the intention of what we were?
Well, if it's whichever is earlier, then the lights would have to turn off before a business closes if a business were open past 11.
Oh, I see.
I
Mm.
see the issue you
Yeah.
have with a business that closes at 6, but I think
Right.
the alternative is also a problem.
There's a little ambiguity, I guess, enough maybe.
I mean, I think the code is clear. I just think it's an issue that, like, if a business closes early, it can keep its lights on until 11. I don't think it's unclear. I just see the
Well, if they're-
drawback of it.
They're open all the time.
Hmm.
I guess, well, if they're not closing.
Because we do have,
I think I'm comfortable with the illumination levels at 7 a.m. For most of the year being
Daylight?
kind of negating, the light
Mhm.
ordinance, but
Mm.
like Matt said, I see what you're saying.
Just thinking about the administration of it, but that's a you problem.
yeah.
Is there any other discussion? Okay, hearing none, a motion would be in order.
I'd like to make a motion to recommend that city council approve the proposed text amendment to sections 122-203, subsection A, C, F, G, H, L, M, O, S, and W. Section 122-335, section E, 8. 122-335, I-7. 122-609, 122-665, B1A, B3C, B5I, and D, with the following findings. One, the proposed amendment is consistent with the guiding values of the master plan. Two, the proposed amendment is consistent with the intent of the zoning ordinance. Three, the proposed amendment will enhance the functionality, transportation network, or character of future development in the city. Four, the proposed amendment will preserve the historic nature of the surrounding area and of the city. Five, the proposed amendment will enhance the natural features and environmental sustainability of the city. Six, the proposed amendment will protect the health, safety, and general welfare of the public. And seven, the proposed amendment will address a community need in physical or economic conditions or development practices.
Has been moved. Is there any support?
Or
Moved and supported. Is there any additional discussion on the motion? Hearing none, Mr. Burns, will you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Jones Chance,
Yes.
Commissioner Dunwoody,
Support.
Commissioner Davis Jr.,
Support.
Commissioner Hollyfield,
support.
Commissioner Marin. Motion passes.
Okay, moving on, electronic message board sign ordinance.
So let me just go back into that. All right. So, that's not what I wanted. That's okay. Okay, so for the electronic message board sign amendment discussion, the zoning board of appeals, they reviewed a variance request for an electronic message board at their June 2nd, 2025 meeting. The variance was applied for by Metropolitan Memorial Baptist Church and was intended to be placed directly in front of the building. Though the ZBA was compelled by the arguments and comments from Metropolitan's parish, the ZBA did not find that the variance met all 6 standards required and thus denied the request. Following the denial of the variance, the ZBA unanimously recommended by motion that the Planning Commission re-review where EMBs are permitted as technology has advanced in a manner that can minimize nuisance concerns. This motion does not compel the Planning Commission to make any amendments. However, EMBs have been a recurring matter. For the history of the ordinance, the Zoning Board of Appeals reviewed a variance request from Second Baptist Church for an EMB sign at their December 2023 meeting. The variance request was denied. However, the ZBA encouraged the Planning Commission to review the matter. Staff and the Planning Commission engaged in policy discussion regarding EMBs at the January 24th PC meeting. And the Planning Commission recommended approval of the EMB ordinance to City Council during their during the April 2024 meeting. At the May 14th, 2024 meeting, this City Council tabled the ordinance amendment and requested the Planning Commission to re-review size limitations for EMBs. And staff and the Planning Commission thoroughly reassessed the size limitations for EMBs over the next couple of months. Ultimately, it was decided to maintain present size limitations for EMBs to 50%. However, the Planning Commission recommended increasing the square footage for permanent freestanding signs in the non-residential core neighborhoods category from 24 square feet to 36 square feet. The Planning Commission held an additional public hearing for the ordinance amendment at their August 2024 meeting, and recommended approval to City Council. City Council ultimately ended up approving that recommended language, and the current ordinance went into effect in November of 2024. EMBs are permitted in the following zoning districts. Notice that they are only permitted for non-residential uses only, and that would include the core neighborhood single family, core neighborhood mid, core neighborhood center, historic corridor, neighborhood corridor, and general corridor. Where they are not permitted would be the parks, single family residential, for residential and non-residential uses, multiple dwelling residential for both residential and non-residential, and then all the core neighborhoods for residential, center for residential, the corridors for residential, and then the health and human services for both residential and non-residential. These are the current standards of electronic message boards. And basically, considering the design standards, staff does not believe that EMBs located in predominantly residential zoning districts will establish safety or nuisance concerns due to the standards that we have implemented. And as a result, staff believe that the Planning Commission should consider permitting EMBs for non-residential uses in every zoning district. If the Planning Commission agrees, staff can propose an amendment for next month's meeting. Now, all there is there, but if you guys have questions, if you would like me to, I don't know, if you provide me guidance, enlighten me as to what y'all would like me to do.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Mr. Burns? Is this something we want to see back?
So I looked at my notes from our June meeting because I know we had some public participation in that June meeting. And I think one of the questions that was posed in June was, are we concerned about electronic message boards in R1, or are we concerned about electronic message boards for residential uses? And I think there's the electronic message board ordinance has been through a lot. It's a lot to keep track of here. When I look at where they are and aren't permitted, I think it's hard to make a case for why we would be okay with them in some of our core neighborhoods for non-residential uses, what in some of our neighborhood corridors for non-residential uses, but would not be okay with them in R1 for non-residential uses.
I agree with you for the most part, Matt. I think they're not appropriate in residential use zones, period. And I guess I'm wondering, staff, the rationale for saying they would not have any issues based on the text amendment that we just sent to City Council. I don't see how these things are compatible with one another. Tell me why I'm wrong.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, we do have the specific standards that were established for EMBs, and I'm open to, making amendments to those standards to make them more dark sky compliant. Ultimately, and also looking at the EMBs that we do have in the city, there was Second Baptist Church, which, I mean, that sign has been hit by a car, so presently it's not operational, but having the matte black background with the single color for the writing, I don't find that is it's very intrusive by any means. And we also have that EMB, I can't remember the church, but it's on Harriet. And they also have the matte black background and the red text or monochrome text. And I don't think that what we've established for our EMBs are in any way, a nuisance concern, especially because the time when they would be most likely to be a nuisance is at night, but they're required to be turned off between the hours of 9 p.m. and 6 a.m. And in the winter, yes, it does get dark at like 5 or 6 p.m., but most of us are usually getting ready I would think most of us are getting ready for bed at like 9, 10. So I don't know, but I don't think I think our current standards address a lot of those nuisance concerns very well.
A lot of the A lot of the activities that we permit in commercial districts similarly do not have nuisance or safety concerns, but we don't just then permit them in residential zones. I don't think saying that there's not a nuisance or safety concern is justification enough to permit it. I live across the street from an electronic message board in a residential district. It's the school, so they can do whatever the heck they want. And I don't think it reflects the character of a single family neighborhood or core neighborhood. And similarly to Mike, I don't think it reflects the standards that we, or the new ordinance amendment that we just recommended adoption of.
I guess my other point is, or my other thought is, I guess I don't know if we start going down this road, why don't we allow drive-throughs? To me, I don't personally think that there's actually a difference. I think once you start allowing electronic message boards in every zoning district, there's really, and you said that's consistent with our master plan, I think then our master plan is consistent with drive-throughs. And I don't personally believe that, but I don't know that that would stand up under jurisdictional or legal review. So.
May I? I think the drive-through bit is a slippery slope, right? Like, I think there is a difference between drive-through commercial uses and an electronic message board for an institution. I would also argue that we're not talking about going down a path. Part of the packet presents that the core neighborhood single family currently allows EMBs for non-residential uses. The core neighborhood mid allows EMBs for non-residential uses. These exist in residential zoning districts right now in our current code. They just don't exist in R1.
Mr. Holyfield, do you have anything to add?
Well, it's a thing that I've said in the past. A lot of times that, we sit here and, the part of the reason why, I'm here is because if we're going to constantly only do what the code says or the zoning ordinance says, and we don't see room for improvement because things have changed and the way signs are created and made these days are not the same way they did 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago. So the size and the way they're lit are changing ever so often. So I don't personally have a problem with EMBs being in this zone, this neighborhood. I don't see it as a distraction or nuisance. I see it that the city is evolving into something new, greater, and more attractive to other people that come to our neighborhood. We just can't keep doing the same old thing year after year, decade after decade, and expect, to draw the same crowd. There's too many times I've seen stuff that would have been okay to allow that we turned down, but they moved to the township. And so we lost that business or that housing development or whatever. We need to protect our neighborhood and bring more people in here. And I think allowing certain things that are not a nuisance to take part in our community. I think that's our best advantage of being here and doing this. Like I said before, remember years ago, you couldn't ride your bike in the street. Now we got bike lanes. So if we're not going to allow changes when it's no harm, and I voted against the bike lanes because when we passed that ordinance, that next week a child got hit over there on Cross Street. Because I was for it if it had a defined barrier between a moving vehicle and an individual on a bicycle. So we need to look at the bigger picture, not my personal agenda on something. I think it's better for the city. I think it's a draw for the city. Otherwise, why are we here? You know, if we can't make small changes here and here, I'm not saying make a drastic change to the whole zoning ordinance, just where little opportunity there is to make a change, let's do it.
Okay, I think, thank you. I think we have, thank you all for your input. I think we have ventured away from questions for staff. And it sounds like we are moving into more of a debate, which is pretty much moot unless there is going to be a motion on the table. So, Joshua, what is the complexity here of what you are asking to either bring back or?
I mean, I'm open to, looking at the full ordinance and where it regulates EMBs, considering additional standards to further ensure dark sky compliance and also minimize nuisance concerns. And again, like the zoning districts that I was looking at all the zoning districts, but I was particularly looking at non-residential uses. I don't think that EMBs should be permitted for residential uses whatsoever. But again, I don't see the harm in non-residential uses, but I think it's also worth looking at the standards to see if there's anything further that we can do to make them more compatible, even if they're for non-residential use in a residential neighborhood.
Okay, so unless someone is willing to make a motion now to allow these everywhere and basically to allow a change, then it seems to me that maybe a next step would be a draft for some change of language for us to actually fully debate and discuss and have a final vote on, or second to final vote on. How is that polling here?
I agree. I think that's what the question in the packet was asking us. If I could ask an additional thing for staff to research, to Phil's point, what are our direct surrounding communities doing in the applicable master plans and zoning ordinances to this proposal that you're talking about?
I'm sorry, what are they doing with EMBs, the direct surrounding municipalities?
Yep, let's do an apples to apples comparison. I don't care what the city of Lansing is doing in this particular area. It was very helpful for the lighting, but this is very different. Thanks, Phil. Brian.
Okay, thank you. It sounds like there are no objections to some drafted language coming back. Mr. Burns, you think you got that handled? Okay, then we will move on to new business.
Hey.
Pew pew. First item up is public hearing for 1901 North Huron River Drive, the group childcare home, special use and site plan.
Yeah, so writing else really quick. All right, so 1901, there is a group childcare home that is being proposed at 1901 North Huron River Drive. The property features a large lot that is 5.6 acres or 242,000 square feet. It presently has a single family home that was built in 1957, along with an asphalt / like gravel driveway and heavy tree cover. 1889 and 1899 North Huron River Drive are accessed via a driveway crossing through the 1901 North Huron River Drive property. The applicant does not provide evidence of an easement, but assumes one exists. The applicant is proposing minimal changes to the site. However, they are planning to install a 30-foot by 40-foot play area. And the property is located within the single-family residential zoning district where group childcare homes containing up to 12 children are permitted as a special use. This is where the property is located, and the surrounding land uses to the north is vacant and wooded, and it's within Ypsilanti Township. To the east, it's single-family housing. To the south, it's also a single-family home, and then to the west, it's a stadium. I'm not going to read the criteria of the special use, but ultimately, the master plan does highlight this property as an ideal redevelopment site. In 2020, residents envisioned a mixed-use development that would include missing middle housing types and apartment buildings. The plan also notes that preservation of the site's natural elements should be considered. The proposed use to maintain a single-family home and have a group childcare home does not particularly match the desired development laid out in the master plan. However, the use will preserve much of the site's natural elements. Additionally, approval of this use does not prevent a major development from potentially happening in the future. Regarding the next criteria, the use of land as a single-family home and group childcare home will not be detrimental, hazardous, or disturbing to existing or future neighboring uses. I do not foresee that this will be a high-intensity use. And then for criteria 3, there are minimal changes to the site plan that are proposed, and there are no changes proposed for the building's footprint. For criteria 4, the site plan is designed, or the site is designed to accommodate car travel. North Huron River does feature wide shoulder lanes that may accommodate bike travel. However, the site does not feature any bike hoops. Additionally, a sidewalk does not extend along the property's frontage, creating a hostile environment for pedestrians. The Planning Commission should consider requiring a sidewalk along North Huron River Drive and bike hoops to enhance multimodal transportation. And then for criteria 5, there are no anticipated increases in public costs for public facilities and services. In terms of the special use items to address, that would be the lack of bike hoops and then adding a sidewalk along North Huron River Drive. And then for the site plan criteria, for the requirement, I just noticed specifically that building department approval will be needed. Regarding the building location and site arrangement, there is one building on this parcel and minimal changes are proposed. I have included the nonconformities and existing nonconformities. And so for the non-use and dimensional regulations for parking location and setbacks, parking is located in the front yard. No changes are proposed. That's an existing nonconformity. The building entrance, it faces the eastern property line, so that is also an existing nonconformity. And then the trash receptacles and dumpster, there is no dumpster that's proposed. However, the site does have some topography to it, and so requiring a dumpster enclosure may be challenging, or yeah, having a dumpster enclosure may be challenging for refuse services. And so the items to address, the applicant should provide a trash management plan. And if a sidewalk is installed, the applicant shall ensure that there are a minimum of 10 street trees. Now, the site is heavily wooded, and so if the Planning Commission was interested and they do put in the sidewalk and whatnot, some of the trees that are located along the front of the property may be able to be considered as part of that street tree canopy. I would just request from the applicant that they provide a condition report of those trees and the type of species, because there are certain species that do not count towards the tree requirement. Regarding the site access, traffic, and parking, the site currently provides a large asphalt and gravel driveway, which does not meet the parking lot / quantity requirements for non-residential uses. The driveway is in poor condition, so the Planning Commission may want to require the driveway to be repaved to ensure adequate surface conditions for visitors, especially during the winter. Additionally, this driveway is approximately 10 feet in width, meaning that vehicular access is limited to accommodating one-way traffic. The Planning Commission may want to consider requiring an increase in the width of the driveway or having the owner provide one-way signs. The site is approximately 500 feet from a bus stop near EMU Stadium and 800 feet from the stop in front of Ozone House, enhancing multimodal transportation accessibility. But the lack of sidewalk does create safety issues and minimizes site accessibility for pedestrians who may have mobility challenges. And again, the large shoulders do provide access for cyclists, but there are no bike hoops for the property. Regarding the nonconformities, I have listed all of them here. They are all existing, as are these, and then as are these. And so for the items to address, I know they're in the staff report, so I don't, if you guys want me to read through them, I can, but if not, I don't have to. Um, but ultimately, the driveway fails to meet the minimum width requirement. The paving material of the driveway is in poor condition. Walkway should exist from North Huron River to the house to ensure adequate pedestrian access. The site's parking situation isn't compliant. A sidewalk doesn't exist along North Huron River Drive. There are 3 parking spaces that are required, but the planning commission may want to consider waiving one of those spaces. The site doesn't include any bike hoops that I've mentioned earlier, and the ordinance requires a 10 by 25-foot loading zone. However, I don't find that to be necessary, and so the planning commission may want to consider waiving this requirement. Regarding the easements, as I've mentioned before, the properties behind are accessed via driveway crossing through 1901 North Huron. And the applicant does not provide evidence of an easement, but assumes one exists. If a shared access easement is not registered with the Washington County Register of Deeds, the applicant should establish a shared access easement permitting site access to 1889 and 1899 North Huron River. Regarding site plan or regarding other departments and approvals, this is relatively standard for the building department and Department of Public Works. And then the master plan, I highlighted, that Ypsilanti is sustainable. The site is one of the largest wooded properties in the city. Approval of this use would ensure preservation of the site's trees. Ypsilanti is a great place to do business. Allowance of this use permits the new business within the city, increasing access to childcare. And then anyone can easily walk, bike, drive, or take transit from anywhere in Ypsilanti and to anywhere else in Ypsilanti and beyond. If staff recommendations are conditioned, a sidewalk may be installed, increasing walkability. Additionally, the site is close to a couple of bus stops, meaning the installation of a sidewalk may encourage further bus ridership. And then I just have some images of the property. I have to say it's a very beautiful property. And you can see the driveway on the right side. And then the parking situation as well as the proposed play area. And then regarding staff recommendations, presently I am recommending postponement for both the special use and the site plan, with the following conditions for the site plan as well. So does anybody have any questions?
Hey, are there any questions for staff?
Yeah, if I may, real quick, Josh. So you had some of the thoughts that you shared. That's properly answered too. I think that's for you.
Looking for more detail.
Some of the thoughts that you shared on the driveway width, I was looking through my notes to try to find the group childcare homes that we have seen for special use review before planning commission, and I don't think it's been that long, but I was having trouble finding the recent examples. There hasn't been a ton of discussion of like traffic circulation in those. And I'm curious because I think most of the time this is a residential use that is modified for use as a group childcare home. In this case, your concerns with the driveway, like in most cases when it is residential, I think we have been comfortable assuming one-way traffic. The only difference here, your concern about traffic circulation is that the driveway is longer than what we typically see. Like why the concern about traffic circulation here, compared to other just residential uses?
Yeah, I mean, yes, you do have the single family use as well, but childcare itself is listed as a commercial use. And so, ultimately that then kind of alters, I mean, that does alter the overall use of the property, making it commercial. So it is required to comply with specifically 122, I believe it's 683. Um, I I I don't have an issue particularly with the one-way drive. It's just more like looking at what the ordinance specifically requires and how the proposal compares to the ordinance itself. Yeah.
Are there any other questions for staff?
No.
Mr. Holyfield?
No, I just got one quick question. So the easement issue is just for the two properties behind it.
Yes.
That is, sorry, I do have that shown. This is labeled along the side as driveway easement is assumed. It's along the eastern property line.
Are there any other questions for staff? Okay, is there anything from the applicant? If you'd like to come up to speak, please do so. The mic's just there.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Todd Ballou, and I'm an architect working with property owner Lubna Atwa to do her childcare center at 1901 North Huron River Drive. I will mention this is a huge piece of property. It is beautiful. I thought it was ideal for this purpose because it's so secluded, you can't even see the house. So quite a bit of security for the children, and playing children will also be quite a ways away from the neighbors. So that much seems fine. I will mention that the childcare uses, this is a group home childcare. It's not quite a totally residential use, but there are three different kinds of childcare. Childcare is commercial use. A group home childcare can only exist in a single family home, and it's limited to 12 kids. So it's much smaller than a commercial childcare. And then there's another smaller category that allows only 1 to 6 children, also in a single family home. And this building will also continue to be used as a single family home with somebody living in it. So there's a number of improvements that are suggested, and I think Lubna would like to do quite a few of these, but she'd like to talk about the sidewalk because this is a huge piece of property. The sidewalk is also huge. It's over 550 feet long. So why don't you come up, Lubna, and ask any questions you'd like?
Good evening, everyone. I'm just applying for a zoning, trying to apply for groups, a home daycare, a zone. I didn't know the zone's gonna take that much of all of this. Anyway, the main thing, the sidewalk, really. The sidewalk, it's just gonna cost a lot of money. I don't see. So let me say this. The view from the EMU Student Center, they don't have a sidewalk. And they required us to have a sidewalk, and this is kinda useless to do a sidewalk, and there is no sidewalk. Where is the EMU Housing Center? So it's gonna stop right there, you know? So I don't know. I don't see the point of you doing this. And it's a group home daycare residential. I don't know. This is it seems like I understand this is a requirement, but I don't know why residential need to do the sidewalk and cost a lot of money. I don't know if this is possible, can be waived or look into it. I would appreciate it. Other than that, I'm willing to do the extend the driveway and other little requirements. I'm willing to go for it. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, a motion would be in order to open the public hearing.
So moved.
Been moved.
Second.
Moved and supported. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Is there anyone here in the public that would like to speak on the group childcare home in question? Is there anyone online?
Anyone online who would like to comment?
Okay, no one in the room, no one online. Motion would be in order to close the public hearing.
So move.
Support.
Moved and supported. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so to kick this off here, is there anyone who wants to do anything other than what staff has recommended?
No.
No? Okay.
No,
And a que-
and
I-
I'll elaborate there if I can. We've seen group childcare settings in the past in front of Planning Commission, and it is as close to residential as I think we can get. Right. And so I was looking at the way we describe a residential use in the zoning ordinance says that for it generally includes single-family residences, 1 and 2 family homes, and group living. For purposes of the zoning ordinance, this shall not include hotels or bed and breakfast. So group living is accounted for, right? I know this isn't group living as much as it's group childcare. That is, I think, a different intensity than group living, right? There is more maybe drop off and pickup than would be involved in group living. But I generally I find it to be a bit onerous to treat this like it is commercial. And so I wouldn't go so far as to suggest any kind of further constraints on the site here.
I think that.
Um,
Great. Oh,
Go for it.
the only question maybe or comment I had for discussion staff is, given the use here is like, if there's flexibility in the timeline of the sidewalk implementation, if that's something that would be, if we can even do that, and if it is feasible to have that as part of like a phased construction, because I can definitely understand the applicant's perspective. It's like 600 feet sidewalk. It's not nothing.
Yeah, no, that can absolutely happen. I met with the applicant last week, and we mentioned that, there is the possibility to, have them do the necessary work now, and have a temporary C of O issued. And then from there, kind of, have that phasing plan to determine how, over what amount of time the sidewalk will be completed before final issuance.
Okay. I think although it may seem disconnected, I think this sidewalk here is very important for the city, and um, folks have been working for years to try to get EMU to build out more of their sidewalk network. And so maybe this is maybe they'll feel differently if there's a connection here. So I do think the sidewalk is very important, and I think, but I understand being reasonable given the use we're looking at and having a phased approach. So I would be comfortable with maybe adding a couple words here that the sidewalk could be phased to be determined by staff administrative review.
And one point of clarification on that, if I could. We got part of Mike's initial question there is about like what we can do as a phased requirement here. We have existing nonconformities on this site, and including in those existing nonconformities is like bike parking. We can continue to like accept no bike parking or no sidewalks in the same way that we could choose to accept like no dumpster enclosure as an existing nonconformity here. Okay, thank you.
This might speed things up, otherwise I wouldn't interject here. Section 122-531, not in the zoning code, but does seem to allow a group daycare as a home occupation and not a commercial use.
Yes, the home occupations, however, they have a specific. Well, it says that a group daycare home is a prohibited home occupation.
Here, let me, no, it's prohibited home occupations, and then it has a list, and then it says, except when properly permitted as, and one of the examples is group daycare home.
Okay. I will say though, home occupations, right below it, it mentions that they must have a maximum area. The maximum area for home occupation must be calculated as 25% of the usable residential floor area of a dwelling unit, or 300 feet, whichever is less. So there is that part of the home occupation ordinance where I'm not sure if this use would still apply here.
Okay, as I understand, well,
Especially-
I'll leave that to you guys. Does anyone else have any other
Well,
questions?
if we think that,
Davis.
if we think an application shouldn't be here, that needs to be addressed when we make our motions for the agenda. Because otherwise, we need to start pulling things in off
Mhm.
the table, so.
But also this is a special use, so it does require planning commission approval.
I think the argument Mr. Davis is making is that if it's by right, it may not be.
If that's what that's what I think you're maybe bringing up, but we don't have to really get into that discussion.
Yeah, maybe.
Staff has already brought it to this commission, and as part of this goes through additional oversight reviews, so.
Yeah, and I mean, I think they're separate issues, right? Like in R1, group childcare is allowed by special use. So like it will need a special use approval by us in order to operate. The question that that Brian is bringing up is whether this is like a permitted home occupation that would change, I think, what the recommendations look like in treating this as a commercial site instead of a residential site.
Sorry for the sidetrack. Is there any questions either related to that or any other burning questions for Mr. Burns here?
Else for me?
Ms. Marin, you're brewing there?
If we postpone action, it doesn't feel like the recommended motion includes like a direction to the applicant. It's just saying these are the things we have stated we don't like, although we haven't even discussed whether or not they are broadly palpable to us. Like I would be comfortable permitting all the existing nonconformities there because it's not a daycare center. It's a much lower intensity and I would treat it as such. But if we're postponing action, I think it has to be married with some direction of the applicant that's based on what we're discussing. So in a way, we should discuss it. Otherwise we're just like tabling it and we'll talk about it later. And that's not fair to the applicant.
Thank you. Then I guess that brings me back to my initial question. Is there anyone who would like to do something other than what staff has recommended?
Yeah, sorry, can we
Okay.
spend another minute on home occupation? Because so home occupations as defined in our zoning ordinance, an occupation in a household carried out by a member of the household, not changing the character of the residential use, right? And so home occupations are prohibited, except for home occupations that are prohibited include daycare centers except group daycare homes. So group daycare homes as part of section 122.531A is an allowed home occupation. The exception that you said, Josh, was coming from subsection B, that is the maximum home occupation must be calculated as 25%.
Yeah.
The description there of subsection B, any home occupation that is not specifically prohibited by subsection A must be permitted if it meets the following standards.
Mhm.
I don't think that implies that this group childcare home is not a home occupation. I think this relates to things that that like I don't know that this must be permitted, but I don't think it changes the fact that like it is a permitted home occupation.
It is a permitted home occupation, but because the group home itself, or the group childcare home could potentially have upwards of 12 kids, that would occupy more than 25%, or 300 square feet of the property. And so it does have that specific section. Like if somebody had less kids, for example, then it would be permitted. And in fact, one of the discussions that we had, that I had last week with the applicant is they realistically could do a group childcare home with up to 6 kids. And that's an accessory use in the zoning ordinance for the R1 district. And they would not need a special use permit. The moment you go above that, that's when you are required to have a special use permit approved by the planning commission in that district.
Is the 6 persons only for adult foster care?
Hold on, let me go to that specific section. real
They call it a family child care home for
Yeah.
between 1 and 6.
Hmm.
Yeah, and I get like the accessory use versus special land use designation in the code. I think the hang up that I'm having is, you know, I'm talking about how we're applying commercial site standards to what is a residential property. And I think the case that you're making for some of the like the traffic pattern discussion is that this is switching from a residential to commercial use. I think the permitted home occupation sort of allows this to still be considered as a residential use. I think the exception that you're talking about for 25% or 300 feet is that is related to a set of criteria that must be permitted per the code.
Mhm.
I don't think that the code is saying anything about whether or not it should be like considered as a residential use otherwise. And so I kind of think the permitted home occupation or prohibited home occupation sort of doesn't apply in a way that would suggest this should be treated as commercial.
I will say that it does, you know, you're right, it does mention that it must be permitted if it meets the following standards. But if it doesn't meet the following standards, such as that size requirement, then it's not permitted. It has to be 300 square, like we have to permit the home occupation if it's not specifically prohibited and it meets all of the following standards, but it does not meet all the following standards.
Right, but I think what I think what he's saying is the fact that it must be approved if it meets those standards doesn't mean that it must be denied if it doesn't.
Yeah, that's, I mean, again, and that is specifically for a home occupation. What they're applying for is a special land use, not a home occupation. I mean, obviously it is a home occupation, but ultimately it is a special land use. And I did discuss this with the building department manager as well. And he says that a group childcare home does fall under a different classification in the building code than a residential use. And so he would deem it as a commercial use.
For building code.
Yes.
For our purposes.
Yeah, I mean, for building code, I get that. I think for our purposes, you know, there are, I think, sites that we have seen before for childcare that, you know, it is primarily a residential site, right? And it is still being used as a residential site, even under the kind of proposed conditions here. I only ask that because I think that, you know, I think that for a residential site, some of the like drive and access conditions, the existing drive and access conditions aren't unreasonable. And so I bring that up only to try to inform the discussion around what we're proposing to have fixed there.
So if
Or
we-
augmented, I should say.
So if we don't agree, if there's commissioners that don't agree that this is that this is a home use, then what the review standards that that staff has put in are the appropriate review standards. Because what you're saying is this, let's just straw man is saying
Mhm.
this application should be considered a home use, not subject to commercial standards. Staff is saying this is above the home. This is a commercial use needing to be designed to commercial standards. So if I were to agree with staff, then how it's been reviewed in the packet is correct. And the site plan recommendation to postpone would be correct if we agree with that postponement.
That sounds about right to me. So I think we're at a point where maybe we need to doesn't appear to me that we're going to take the recommendation here, at least as it is, whether we feel that it needs some additional instructions for the applicant or we disagree about some of the requirements. So let's maybe take care of the special use component. Are we all in agreement that it is indeed a special use?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so we got that. That's good. Okay, on the site plan, are there conditions that you would change from the conditions listed in the staff recommendation?
Yeah, if we're talking about the sidewalk, I feel conflicted about the sidewalk along the street. I do feel like it requiring the walking path along the driveway or like internal pedestrian traffic. That strikes me as something that is more aligned with what I think we require for commercial spaces and doesn't feel consistent with kind of the rest of the use in the site plan here. That is the 5-foot sidewalk along the drive to ensure adequate pedestrian access. Part of condition 3. And I mentioned that I was torn about the sidewalk along the drive. I understand that it's a burden. I do agree that sidewalks are important. I think it's tough to suggest that like EMU is off the hook for that, so we're gonna hold neighboring property owners accountable to compel them, right? It is, I think it's a tough sell.
Okay. Are there any other things that anyone would change in the conditions here?
I was just gonna change from postpone to approve. That was my change for this entire thing. So I don't have anything further.
Okay. Well, let's trial balloon a motion here. Mr. Davis, if you'd like to take a stab at,
The first one?
yeah, let's get the special use out of the way.
Sure. Well, let me double check one thing first here. All right. I make a motion that planning commission postpone the special use permit. I have a frown. Oh, I already have a frown. For the group childcare home at 1901 North Huron River Drive with the following findings. The finding that the application does not comply substantially with section 122, 324, and 326.
Okay, there's a motion on the table. Is there any support? Hearing none, the motion fails. Okay, let's try the site plan, see if we have any different luck.
Well, so if I may I?
Yeah.
I don't think anybody has an issue with the special use, right? But I know that we've toyed in the past with what value there is in approving a special use without a site plan. Like it is functionally it isn't helpful to approve a special use without approving a site plan. And yet I find that I am in favor of the use, right? I think there's just some details of the site plan that I don't think we have maybe a majority support for.
Well, let's see if we can get some of those hammered out. I welcome a motion for a site plan. And it seems like we have agreement-ish on the conditions.
I wouldn't even necessarily want to require an increase of the driveway width to accommodate two-way traffic if they're only having up to 12 kids. Essentially all the existing nonconformities I would see as appropriate to permit, even if it is a special use. The fact that it is even discussed in the home occupation section sort of like lends its support to that this is low intensity. And I don't know if y'all have had estimates these days for driveways, but that's going to be incredibly cost prohibitive. And she's got 12 kids at a time. Like that's many, many thousands of dollars. Forget the sidewalk. So, you know, we talk about barriers to entry. I think this is much more onerous than saying you can't have an electronic message sign in terms of like business operations. So
How would you feel?
Would you like
how would
to-
you feel about, I'm sorry, Brian, how would you feel about removing the condition for the driveway and keeping the condition for the sidewalk? As we are a walkable, dense urban community.
yeah, I feel,
Allegedly.
yeah.
Well, hang on, folks, before we get to debate, let's put something on the table here.
I don't even know if we're at that point. I'm like, the silence makes me think that we're not at the point to put a full motion on the table.
Well, Ms. Marin, you have some ideas. Would you like to move that? And then we can have, if there's a second, we can discuss it. So I think that's, that's
Mhm,
one end of the spectrum. And so we might get a read on where we are.
You know what? I'll take
Well,
one.
and
I'll
and
take one.
real quick, if I may, if we're going to talk about approval of a special use, that special use needs to include the condition of an approved site plan that isn't noted in the packet because that wasn't staff's recommendation.
Okay, let me
I just want to put that out there.
make a note of that. An approved site plan, right? I'm not making. a
yeah,
motion, but I'm
the-
just writing it down.
So I can find an example of that language.
Chair, if you would permit me, I'd like to make a motion on the site plan.
Please do.
I'd like to recommend the planning commission approve the site plan for the group childcare home at 1901 Huron River Drive with the following findings and conditions. One, the finding, the application does comply substantially with sections 122, 309, and 311 with the following conditions. The applicant shall ensure that the 10 existing street trees remain or are replanted. 2, the applicant shall install a 5-foot sidewalk along the driveway to ensure adequate pedestrian access. 3, the applicant shall establish 2 parking spaces compliant with section 122-683. 4, the applicant shall install 2 bike hoops. And 5, the applicant shall provide a sidewalk compliant with, pardon, let me amend my motion. The first condition, I misread the condition. Strike what I previously said, and the condition is the applicant shall provide a sidewalk compliant with city engineering standards along North Huron River Drive. In addition to installing the sidewalk, the applicant shall ensure the 10 street trees remain or are replanted. End.
So motion on the table. Is there support?
I take friendly amendments.
I would appreciate a bit of a clarification. I think
Yes, please.
I think I was a little confused. So you're making a motion on the site plan first,
Yeah.
right? And that is the recommendation to approve with the finding as written. And after your amendment, the only condition is condition 2 presented in the packet. Or were there other conditions?
There are other conditions. My condition.
I was confused
is-
about what you
Yep.
struck there, maybe.
Sure. The conditions are 2 in the packet, number 2,
Mhm.
as written. The condition number 5 as written, and the condition number 6.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Okay, motion on the table. Is there support?
I support.
Okay, moved and supported. Mr. Davis Jr., would you like to kick off the discussion here?
I would allow staff to do the roll call.
Oh, I think he was asking for discussion, not for a vote.
Oh, I'm sorry, I
Yep.
misheard you. I interpreted it differently. I don't have any further discussion from my chair. Thank you.
Okay, is there anyone who is against the motion who would like to speak about that?
I don't like requiring the sidewalk. I totally agree. The only way to fill in sidewalk gaps is to require new development to implement them, but I fought with huge housing developers who don't want to put in their share of the sidewalk gap, and they kick up a fuss having to put it in. I think asking a small childcare, not even center, but home to put in a sidewalk that connects to nothing on either side is, while it may reflect the non-motorized portion and goals of our master plan, it doesn't reflect some other goals in that we want to be business friendly. I mean, I wish there was, and also, sorry, another question, the 5-foot sidewalk along the drive, do we know the length of that? The driveway?
I used Map Washington and I think I got like 10-ish feet.
Oh,
I can't remember off the top of my head fully. It's in the staff report what I estimated though.
10-ish feet is the length of the driveway?
Oh, not the length, the width.
You're asking,
sorry.
she's asking for the walking path that is in the recommendations along the driveway,
Yeah,
right?
number
Oh.
condition 3.
Yeah, I don't know what that length is.
Slap a
particularly.
scale on
I
that.
think it's a little, I mean, as written, that condition is vague. Does it
I didn't-
connect to the driveway?
I didn't include that.
Okay, okay, good.
I did not include that.
Then never mind. No further questions.
And
And it's not in there.
And no, it's slightly disconnected, but there is a sidewalk to the east. There's a service drive and a sidewalk at the adjoining property. So you could technically walk from here to there, and then you would hit this property, and there would be no further sidewalk to exit the city on one side of the street.
Okay, any other supporting comments?
I wanted
take
to have a
something in the
motion on
middle
table.
too.
We could discuss it. I've been on the fence about the sidewalk. I am interested more about sidewalk to the east.
Yeah, it's difficult to see. It's not fully connected. There's a gap, but there's the Huron River Service Drive that's present, and then there is sidewalk in front of all of those homes inset. So, you know, I'm
Oh,
not a-
like off right of way.
yeah, yeah, exactly. So
Okay.
it's not perfect, but neither is this part of the town.
And to answer a previous question, the driveway is approximately 250 feet in length.
I will mention that I think someone earlier suggested potentially having granting more time for this particular requirement to be met. Just suggesting, it might not be a bad compromise. You know, all parties are slightly dissatisfied.
I didn't put that in the motion. But I think staff expressed that they would be willing to work with the applicant on that from an administrative review. So that made me honestly more comfortable in this entire discussion. So I think it's important though, because I do think we aren't. What you mentioned, Michelle, is very, very true.
So,
That- that-
no,
another
I've talked a
question.
lot. Yeah, you go.
Like it- I know it's not our job to, particularly solve problems, but I guess my question is, I know in commercial, when it came to sidewalks, sometimes that we did not have them put it in and offer a fee.
Oh, a fee in lieu for the sidewalk?
Yeah. Is that something that wasn't mentioned, that could have been mentioned?
I don't exactly know how the fee in lieu for a sidewalk is calculated, but I imagine it's similar to street trees, where basically you would need to get a quote for how much it would cost for materials and labor to install that sidewalk, and then you would pay that fee. So you would still be responsible for that exact cost
Oh.
regardless.
Presumably that would only be if there were like site constraints, right?
Yes. Yeah.
I think I'm still torn by there being this deep right of way sidewalk on the east side because, you know, we would connect it presumably to a sidewalk that would be along the road. It still doesn't go anywhere. You know, like there's still nothing on the western side of this property that a sidewalk across the property would connect to. Because I think that the idea of like sidewalk connectivity is connecting things to other things. And you know, we can talk about the benefit of connecting this site to other sidewalks, but I think it's real hard to figure out like where the benefit is of driving the sidewalk to the extents of the property line.
Yes, yeah.
I'm
All
happy.
right. How are we feeling about sidewalk now?
Michelle's convinced me.
Okay, how are we feeling about the motion generally? Okay. I bet. Okay, if there's no further discussion, let's and no suggested amendments. Let's see where we land. Mr. Burns, can you call the roll, please?
We repeat it one more time.
Yeah, that's good luck with
I
that.
didn't hear what Phil said, sorry.
Yes, if you could repeat.
Oh, repeat it, yeah, sure.
Yeah, what I think.
Yeah, sure. So it's to approve the site plan, the conditions, I'm just gonna, do you want me to read them out, Phil, or just say the number? I'll read it. One, the second condition, the applicant shall provide a sidewalk compliant with the city engineering standards along North Huron River Drive. In addition to installing the sidewalk, the applicant shall ensure that the street trees remain or are replanted. Number 5, my second, is the applicant shall establish 2 parking spaces compliant with the section 683. And the 6th, my third, the applicant shall install 2 bike hoops.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Burns, will you call the roll?
Yeah. Commissioner Jones Chance,
Yes.
Commissioner Dunwoody,
Oppose?
Commissioner Davis Jr.,
Yes.
Commissioner Hollyfield,
Both.
Commissioner Marin.
Oppose.
Motion fails.
Okay, sounds like we are so close.
We are.
We are, yes.
Let me change the font color here so I know what's what. I recommend that Planning Commission approve the special use permit for the group childcare home at 1901 North Huron River Drive with the following findings and conditions. Finding the application substantially complies with section 122-324B. Condition, the special use approval shall be subject to the approval of the site plan.
Moved and supported. Is there any discussion on the site plan? Or I'm sorry, the special use? Hearing none. Mr. Burns, will you call the roll, please?
Yeah. Commissioner Jones Chance.
Yes.
Commissioner Dunwoody,
Support.
Commissioner Davis Jr.,
Support.
Commissioner Hollyfield, Commissioner Marin. Motion passes.
Okay, that's one job done.
And can you just remind me who was the second on that approval? It was Commissioner Dunwoody. It was, okay. Okay, thank you.
Would you like to try the site plan?
Yeah, you know, I'm trying to make sure I know how I feel about parking spaces and bike hoops. Because I don't see those as being particularly onerous, but I'm trying to think of the logic of bike hoops if we don't have, you can still bike on the street. I'm talking myself into it. I move that Planning Commission approve the site plan for the group childcare home at 1901 North Huron River Drive with the following findings and conditions. Finding the application substantially complies with section 122-309 and 122-311. And the conditions, the applicant shall establish 2 parking spaces compliant with section 122-683. The applicant shall install 2 bike hoops.
Support.
Moved and supported. Is there any additional discussion on the motion? Hearing none. Mr. Burns, will you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Jones Chance?
Yes.
Commissioner Dunwoody?
Support.
Commissioner Davis Jr.?
No.
Commissioner Hollyfield? Commissioner Marin?
Support.
Motion passes.
Okay, motion passes. Thank you, everyone. Moving on to public hearing for 775 South Grove, drive-through pharmacy and doctor's office, special use and site plan. Mr. Burns, do you have a presentation?
So there is a medical clinic and drive-through pharmacy that is proposed at 775 South Grove. The parcel is 0.722 acres, and the building is located just north of the intersection at South Grove and Emmerich. The building is currently vacant and has historically been used as a bank. However, it was most recently used as a salon. The property features a traditional single-story commercial building with a drive-through and a large parking lot designed to accommodate car travel. Additionally, the auto-centric design is evident via the 3 wide curb cuts providing automobile access to the property. The property's zoning of general corridor permits medical clinics and pharmacies by right, but drive-throughs require approval of a special use permit. In this case, the applicant is not proposing any changes to the site or any changes to the building's footprint, and provides minimal changes to the site. Regarding the surrounding land uses, this is at the very corner of the city. To the north, the property is vacant. It was the former Rite Aid, which is a PUD, which is zoned as a PUD and general corridor. To the east, it's vacant. It was a former shopping center, and that's in Ypsilanti Township. And to the south and the west is a park. Regarding the special use criterias, the proposal is to make use of an existing vacant building. The use conforms generally to the provisions of the requirement of the chapter, and because it's general corridor, this would be a special use. And then for criteria 2, the use will not be detrimental, hazardous, or disturbing to existing or future neighboring uses, persons, properties, etc. It is compatible with the surrounding neighborhood, enhancing access to healthcare services while supporting the revitalization of commercial activity in an area that has experienced a significant decline in such uses. The staff does not find this to be a high-intensity use. Regarding criteria 3, there are minimal changes to the site plan that are proposed, and there are no changes that are proposed to the building's footprint. For criteria 4, as I'd mentioned before, it is designed to accommodate car travel, which is evident through the 3 driveways and excessive parking. The Planning Commission should consider requiring bike spaces to enhance multimodal transportation, and the Commission should also consider requiring additional trees to remove some of the parking spaces to reduce the urban heat island effect, and some of the non-conforming elements of the parking lot. Additionally, there's also a sidewalk that's missing along Emmerich Street, and the bus stop is located along Emmerich Street, and so the Planning Commission may want to consider requiring a sidewalk along Emmerich. In terms of this criteria, there are none anticipated. For the special use items to address, there would be the lack of bike hoops, the excessive pavement, and increasing the site's tree canopy, and adding a sidewalk along Emmerich. Regarding the specific requirements, I did want to note that the applicant does need to provide a compliant loading zone, and that they need to demonstrate that the drive-through can accommodate walk-up and bike users as required in 122-523. Regarding building location and site arrangement, there is one building on this parcel and minimal changes are proposed. The proposed dumpster enclosure does appear to encroach over the property line, which is not permitted. And so modifications will need to be made, will need to be made there. And then regarding the existing nonconformities, there are quite a few, but the non-compliant elements that I wanted to mention was, the dumpster enclosure, which is over the property line. And I also don't have any spec information. And so I don't know, what's it being constructed out of, how tall will it be, et cetera, et cetera. In terms of required lighting, the proposed lighting exceeds 0.5-foot candle at the lot line in numerous places. And the height of the proposed light poles are unknown. And then you have the street tree and foundation landscaping that's existing non-conforming. And then screening of electrical equipment and transformers that's presently not screened. And so that is also a non-conformity. And so I've listed the items to address, including dumpster enclosure, encroaching, needing the spec, designs, the dealing with the foot candles that exceeds 0.5 at the lot line. The other thing I wanted to mention is that the proposed maple trees are located very close to the building, and so those should probably be moved just because where they're proposed, those trees might end up dying or causing damage to the building. Regarding site access, traffic, and parking, the site currently provides 29 parking spaces, which far exceeds the minimum allowable spaces. The zoning ordinance states that parking can exceed 120% of the minimum requirement, and the site currently exceeds the parking requirement by 223%. The parking lot is in poor condition, and it features numerous nonconformities. Accessible parking has been provided outside of the front of the building, and then the site directly abuts a bus stop on Emmerich Street, enhancing multimodal transportation accessibility. However, the lack of the sidewalk along the Emmerich Street frontage does create difficulties. And then there's also a lack of bike parking spaces. So, yeah. And then going through the nonconformities, traffic visibility, there's only one part where I wasn't 100% certain, but it appeared that the evergreen tree that is proposed closest to the driveway does not conform. It looks like it does impede upon that traffic visibility requirement. And then there are more than nonconformities. And then this was the list of items to address for this specific section. So that includes the sidewalk along Emmerich, the traffic visibility, signage to define the driveway for the drive-through as a one-way. Pedestrian access to the building's front door for the parking spaces along South Grove would be positive. Wheel stops should be provided for all parking spaces, removing some parking spaces to increase tree canopy cover. The parking lot is not adequately screened, and so the Planning Commission may want to condition parking lot screening. Again, there's no bike parking spaces, but the applicant should provide 6. There is no designated loading zone. And the Planning Commission may want to require replacement of the parking lot due to the poor condition, which I have also included pictures. So you'll see that pretty soon. And then additionally, all the driveway aprons are relatively large, and so maybe decreasing the size of some of those might be beneficial for enhancing walkability and safety. Regarding the site plan criteria, or regarding other departments and agencies, it's the same thing for the building department and Department of Public Works. And then you have the master plan consideration. So Ypsilanti is sustainable. The activation of this vacant space encourages the reuse of an empty building, preserving the building's embodied energy. And Ypsilanti is a great place to do business. Allowance of this use assists in the activation of a commercial area in an activity experiencing commercial decline, or in an area that's experiencing commercial decline. The activation of the site allows the owner to care for and maintain the property, which will hopefully encourage others to invest in this small neighborhood commercial area. And then regarding images, you can see the condition of the parking lot. On the right, you'll see like that's one of the drive aisles that goes specifically to the drive-through, and it is relatively large. There's the curb cut to the drive-through seen from a different view. And then there's the bus stop that's just right off the site. And then this sidewalk on the left, that is also that same drive-through driveway apron facing east. And then you have the sidewalk that leads to the bus stop. Again, and this is along this is along Emmerich. This is the condition of the drive-through. There's also the ADA parking spaces. This is also, the existing condition of the building. There's a lot of overgrowth presently, and then the sidewalk's not in horrible condition. There's some, grass that's growing through the cracks, but that can easily be dealt with. And so for the special use, I am recommending postponement. And then I'm also recommending postponement of the site plan with the following conditions.
Thank you. Are there any questions for staff?
Was there an engineering review conducted for this one?
No, because they're not changing anything about the impervious surfacing.
And when was the bank built roughly?
Not sure, to be honest. Looking at the building, I would imagine it's been there since at least the 80s, 70s, 80s, but I ultimately would have to confirm that.
Are there any other questions for staff? Mr. Dunwoody, are you brewing there?
Am I what?
Are you brewing? Looks like you were going to ask a question.
Nope, just taking it in.
Okay, then let's hear from the applicant if they are here.
Hello, Mo Beydoun on behalf of 775 South Grove. As Josh put it, it's a very simple project. No structural changes, no foundational changes. It is in an area that has been overgrown. It's pretty vacant. I think about 18 acres to the east is entirely vacant. The Rite Aid to the north is entirely vacant. In terms of the items that need to be addressed, we have no issues with them personally. Including the deliberation we just went through about the sidewalk, even that we can we can get through too. However, I do have a little bit of concern with postponing, considering we are able and willing to abide and play with these criteria. But besides that, yeah, I would hope that we can get some sort of solution here today.
Hey, thanks very much.
If I may, really quick, as part of, I don't know what plans exist for parking lot repair, right? You mentioned that you're comfortable with most of the conditions presented by staff. If that includes parking lot repair, can we talk about striping a bit? I don't know if there's any plans for like repainting or restriping. Because I see evidence, and I admittedly try to make a point to see this on site, and I missed my opportunity with this parcel. As far as like directional arrows on the site go, we kind of have two separate drive paths through the site, right? There is like an entrance on the east side that goes through the drive-through and potentially circles around the building. There is an entrance on the west side that has just one-way traffic to exit out the east. Is that correct? Is that how that's arrowed, or is it arrowed?
If you look at the image on the right driveway is a one-way driveway directly into the drive-through. The one on the left is the parking lot. Correct.
Yeah, so for the parking lot,
Correct.
for the parking lot, is there two-way traffic through the parking lot?
Yeah, it'll be an all-around use. Yeah,
Thank you.
all-around circulation.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Welcome.
A motion would be in order to open the public hearing.
So moved.
Moved and supported. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? You good? You good, Josh? Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. We'll open up for audience participation now. If anyone in the room would like to speak on this item, please feel free to get up. You have 3 minutes. Is there anyone online?
Nobody who would like to speak.
Okay, it doesn't appear that anyone in the room is either, and so a motion would be in order to close public hearing.
So moved.
Moved and supported. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, any opposed? Cool. All right, so let's have some discussion, I guess, in light of what we heard. Are there any additional questions, concerns? Seems as though the postponement issue that Ms. Marin brought up before is at play again. So, what are thoughts here?
Yeah, can I start?
Yep.
I don't think have a ton of opportunities to see kind of good reuse of vacant sites, and so I'm excited for the application that we have here. I think it's going to be really constrained. You know, it's constrained as it is. It's going to continue to be really constrained because of the nature of the existing setup, right? It is very auto oriented. That is out of keeping with a lot of details in our current code. But I think if we want for existing spaces to be adapted, I think some amount of flexibility is going to be inherent in that. I have a I have, you know, an inclination to support the use, but I think that we have a history of struggling with any site plans that have a list of conditions that is this extensive. Um, you know, even with the willingness of the applicant to address some of them, I think they do constitute a change of a site plan that would have to come before Planning Commission again. I think there's, you know, I don't know that there's a hard line about how many conditions is too many conditions, but I think 17 might be more than we've moved to approve. And so I'm inclined to agree with staff that despite some discussion that we should have of conditions, I think postponing this evening is probably the best course of action. But I am interested in talking about those conditions.
I agree with you. I think I'd like to see us back as soon as possible.
Okay, does anyone have any differing view on that? I don't hear any, then a motion to accept the staff recommendation on the special use would be in order.
I move that Planning Commission postpone the special use permit for the drive-through pharmacy at 775 South Grove Street with the following findings. Finding the application does not substantially comply with section 122-324 and section 122-326.
And just before we get too far, we should put a date on the postponement. It can just be our next
Date-
meeting or something
Or
like that.
should we wait until they complete or like until such time as they submit a completed site plan?
Isn't the postponement timeline in the zoning ordinance?
No, that's a
Hmm.
tabling.
Okay. Oh, I'm thinking PUD.
Hmm.
Is that when we could postpone? Anyways.
Also, friendly amendment, if we could just be postponing it based on the site plan discussion that it doesn't comply with and not reference the special use standards, because we'll discuss the special use standards. I think that would be more appropriate.
Well, no motion has been seconded, so you can change that if you will, but we should have a, if we're going to postpone, we should have a date, or Ms. Marin had a suggestion that you might also take.
Well, so can we, I think that there is some discussion we need to have about the site plan, right? Because if we want to see a revised site plan, then I think we should be specific about which of the recommended conditions we agree with, don't agree with, or if there's any additional conditions that we would like to see.
Are there any other changes to the conditions that folks would like to see?
Well, can I ask about the special use first?
Sure.
So the special use, I think I am supportive of, right? And so this is kind of the same discussion that we had before. Special use is going to be conditioned on the site plan. So for Commissioner Marin's point, if there is a special use application that is amenable here, perhaps we should just discuss the special use so we can approve something and then postpone the site plan.
Okay. Could we let your suggested motion fail and getting a second?
It hasn't gotten a second, so it's cooked.
So could we slow our entire process down? Because we are motioning, seconding, passing things before I even understand. So, because the last one, Brian, you gave the space to let my motion be sit out there before anyone chose to whether or not they wanted a second. So I heard a friendly amendment, I haven't heard you deny the friendly amendment, and
You
I,
can't amend if there's no motion on the table. So the motion was never seconded, and so there's nothing to amend.
so as a commissioner, I can just, you're okay if I just fly off with a motion at any time, or?
That's your right. Yeah.
Okay, great. Let's talk about conditions.
Yeah, there's no motion on the table at the moment, so if the hangup is that we want to discuss potential changes to the conditions that are outlined here, then yeah, we should hammer through those. I'm assuming there are some, though.
I'm not crazy about the two-way vehicle access. I mean, based on the aerials that I'm looking at, it looks like we have angled parking spaces. And so if we have, like, so that if you're driving southeast, you can pull into a spot. But if you're driving northwest, you would have to make a hard turn to park into those angled spaces. I don't even think that's compliant with the parking layout standards in the ordinance. So I would sooner just see one-way vehicle access around the whole site. And then presumably there's like a bypass lane around the other side of the drive-through lane there. We don't see any like stacking space layout here, but I see there's three drive-through spaces. So I'm assuming we don't need to have a whole bunch of stacking spaces there. There's probably plenty of space to have a bypass lane fit through there as well. So that folks can access the site safely, but also from both Emmerich and Grove.
The recommendations from staff include an item 10 in the conditions. The applicant shall propose signage indicating one-way drives. You'd be comfortable with
Well, I'm
that-
mostly responding to the applicant saying that there was two-way
right.
access there.
Yeah, that was kind of the nature of my question about that, because the angled parking suggests that it is intended for entry from one side and not the other. And I'm assuming that was the nature of staff's recommendation on the one-way signage. Can I ask a clarifying point? I forgot about this earlier, but Josh, you recommended a condition about replacing or relocating proposed maple trees.
Mhm.
Which were the trees that you had an issue with in the plan?
Hold on, let me share that site plan really quickly. New business. Okay. I'm gonna share my screen. The two trees that I was referencing were, I don't know if you can see where my mouse is hovering, but it's both the trees that are located closest to the building. Those are proposed to be maples. But you know, looking at how big maple trees can get and whatnot, it is just simply too close to the building.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
So perhaps changing to a different species that is approved by DPW.
Yeah.
There's also those shrubs. Making that turn is already blind. Sorry, if you on the left side of the screen, those
Like-
shrubs right where that turn is.
Zone E, where Zone E is.
Scroll your screen so it's like looking more to the. Yep, keep it up. Oh, keep going, keep going, keep going.
Oh, over here.
Yeah, over there.
Mm-hmm.
I'm worried about vision, the sight line. When
We can do a little
curving around Emmerich Grove, do y'all know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah,
On there?
I think I was picturing the like screening shrubbery that we see that we require around parking that is like 3 feet tall.
Right, totally.
Like
At-
that,
at time of planting.
like the headlight screening. Yeah.
So where the shrubs are presently proposed, like an estimation of I mean, obviously this is, the lot is angled over here. And so it is, yeah, it's kind of challenging to determine whether or not that would impede on traffic visibility or not. When looking at 775, 775, I don't know if this will help, but maybe it will. So this is what we're dealing with presently. I don't imagine that having shrubs there will particularly be too impeding. Now, granted, I guess it might be helpful to look at the
Can you
side
set,
of Emmerich.
could you go drag your man back to to Grove?
To
Yeah, turn right there. I think this is a great view, well, Michelle, because I think actually the greater sightline issue is from the site onto Grove. And because of the way the one-way is gonna work, as I understand it, cars are gonna be coming down, pointed directly into the street. So I think actually shrubs here are of the utmost importance. Now, I'm not gonna say pretend that people don't drive too fast on Emmerich and all these side streets, and people will need to be careful. Maybe we could suggest a sign of cross cross traffic does not stop coming from at the exit for people to help realize that they need to make sure they're making the slow turn. But I think a bigger shrub would be more important.
Good point.
Thanks, Josh. Sorry, I didn't mean to
you're
interrupt
okay.
so abruptly, but you had it perfect. So
Maybe even the trees could be placed there alternatively.
I agree.
especially if there are smaller tree species, I think that's a good idea.
Put some shrubs by the building.
Yeah.
Mhm.
The primary entrance here is the one on the south side of the building. Is that correct, or should I ask the applicant that?
I would imagine the primary entrance is
South and west,
on
thank
South
you.
Grove, yeah.
Okay, I guess most of my question is Josh, you recommended a condition here about pedestrian access to the building here for, where did that go?
For the parking spaces along South Grove.
One.
Let me see if it'll show my screen. Yep. So ultimately, you'll see like these parking spaces here, they abut a concrete walk that takes them directly to the building. Not saying that it's like crucial by any means, but it would be nice if there was a small sidewalk. I mean, there's already a sidewalk kind of there, but like having the sidewalk have like a pedestrian crossing here or something. I do think that people tend to drive really fast on South Grove and that general area just because the road is wide open and there's not any obstructions. And so I think that ensuring that people understand there is going to be pedestrian crossings happening at times, and specifically in this section, might be useful to ensuring pedestrian safety.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
I guess was having a hard time just seeing that there is the pedestrian access that kind of goes through the center of the lot. And there's not a whole lot of parking space that would ever need to be covered by a pedestrian who is parking in any space in that lot. So, understanding that we're working with some existing conditions, I don't know that that's one that compels me much, but wanted to make sure I understood where you were coming from.
Okay, so far we've discussed conditions 6, 7, 9, 10, and 11. Are there any other concerns, questions?
I don't know if I ever said this out loud, but I think that with a reuse of an existing space, that removing some parking spaces to add canopy cover is probably asking more than it warrants with an existing site. That is condition 13. And so as I'm kind of thinking about how we can work with an existing space to promote reuse of it, that feels like an ask that is I think disproportionate with changes to the site, in my opinion. I feel the same way about condition 16, that the width of the driveway apron being reduced would be helpful, but I think with an existing site, it's something that it doesn't feel necessary for me to condition. So if this were, if I had my wish list for a revised site plan, if we vote for postponement this evening, I would be okay with the conditions mentioned here by staff excluding 11, 13, and 16.
I could add give a comment regarding 16. I think if you're going to support a sidewalk on Emmerich, then reducing the apron I always get this mixed up, but to require a more I'm not even gonna mess with geometry, to close off the apron so that people don't just slightly turn their steering wheel to enter the site, which is how it is now. They're just gonna go like that and then just kind of pop right over the sidewalk without even stepping on the brake. I think those two to me pair together. So I think if we're gonna go with the sidewalk, I think 16 should remain.
Have you been sold?
I haven't.
Okay. Checking.
I understand it. I understand it. For me, I think that like there's a site plan in front of us that intends to reuse this existing building without like implementing a ton of modifications to it. And so to me still like I don't disagree with the ideal of a driveway apron. I mostly just agree with trying to make the existing site usable. And if I may, I made a motion a while ago about the special use and Commissioner Marin noted that we didn't talk about the special use criteria. I don't think any of the special use criteria are objectionable here, so I want to talk through those really quick ahead of what I think our next motion will be. Staff had noted that we're making use of an existing vacant building. I think the use is not like hazardous or detrimental. I think there are not any long-term compatibility issues with the surrounding site. And that while it is designed for car travel, it is not creating any new burden on transportation and or public facilities. So I think those are the conditions for which we review special use permits. And so if we'll entertain a motion. I'd like
I
to talk
will,
about the
yes.
special use. I move that the planning commission approve the special use permit for the drive-through pharmacy at 775 South Grove Street with the following findings and conditions. Let me find my language for this real quick. Finding one, that the application substantially complies with sections 122.324 and 122.326. And condition. I'll get there, hang on. Here we go. And condition, the special use approval shall be subject to the approval of the site plan.
Support.
Moved and supported. Is there any discussion on the motion?
I think I've said my bit.
Okay, anyone who would find themselves opposed? Who would like to lend an opinion? Okay, anyone else? Mr. Burns, will you call the roll?
Commissioner Jones Chance,
Yes.
Commissioner Dunwoody,
Support?
Commissioner Davis Jr.,
Or
Commissioner Hollyfield,
Support.
Commissioner Marin. All right, the special use permit passes.
Do I have the floor?
Please go ahead.
I move that the planning commission postpone the site plan for the medical clinic and drive-through pharmacy at 7075 South Grove Street with the following findings and conditions. Finding 1, the application does not substantially comply with sections 122-309 and 122-311. Condition 1, the applicant shall provide a loading zone compliant with section 122-695. Condition 2, the applicant shall demonstrate that the drive-through can accommodate walk-up and bike users. Condition 3, the dumpster enclosure shall not encroach onto 753 South Grove. Condition 4, the applicant shall provide dumpster enclosure design specs indicating compliance with section 122-608. Condition 5, the applicant shall provide a revised photometric plan compliant with section 122-609. The applicant shall ensure that lighting does not exceed 0.5 foot candles at the lot line and clarify the height of proposed light poles. Condition 6, the applicant shall provide a landscaping plan compliant with Article 6, Division 3 of the zoning ordinance. Revisions shall include additional foundation landscaping, additional trees, and screening of utility equipment. Condition 7, the applicant shall either relocate the proposed maple trees or choose a smaller tree to ensure the trees will not die or cause damage to the building. Condition 8, a sidewalk compliant with city engineering standards shall be built along Emmerich Street. Condition 9, the applicant shall confirm traffic visibility for the curb cut closest to the evergreen tree. Condition 10, the applicant shall propose signage indicating one-way drives. Condition 11, wheel stops shall be provided for all parking spaces. Condition 12, the parking lot shall be screened in accordance with section 122-684C. Condition 13, the applicant shall install 6 bike hoops. And condition 14, the parking lot shall be either repaved or repaired.
Support.
It's been moved and supported. And let me, before we go, make sure I have this right. You are removing from the existing conditions listed in the packet here, item 11,
Correct?
items 13
Correct.
through, tell me where we stop here, 13 and 14?
13 and 16 was
13 and 16.
condition that I excluded.
Okay. Does everyone have that? Okay. Is there any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, Mr. Burns, will you call the roll?
Commissioner Jones-Chance,
Yes.
Commissioner Dunwoody,
Support?
Commissioner Davis Jr.,
No.
Commissioner Hollyfield, Commissioner Marin. Motion passes.
Moving to public hearing for 402 South Washington triplex development, special use and site plan. Do you have a presentation for us, Mr. Burns?
Yeah, so the applicant is proposing the construction of a triplex on a lot at 402 South Washington. In addition to the triplex, the applicant proposes a 2-car garage that will double as a trash storage area. The lot is presently vacant. However, it previously featured a Greek revival home, likely built in the 19th century. In 1999, the house experienced suspected arson that ultimately led to its demolition. Following the fire, the garage of the property remained until it was eventually demolished between 2011 and 2014. Since then, the lot has remained vacant but was used as a soccer field. The parcel is 0.182 acres, and the property is a corner lot located at the southwest corner of the South Washington and Buffalo Street intersection. The property zoning of core neighborhood mid permits triplexes, however, approval of a special use permit is required. Also, I wanted to note that the property is located within the historic district, and so it does require historic district approval, which they have received. Regarding the surrounding land uses, to the north, the property is vacant. To the east, it's a single-family home. To the south, technically it's vacant. That lot is owned by the church. So technically it's kind of a church, but it appears to be vacant. And then to the west is a single-family home. Regarding the special use criteria, the proposal is to develop, a vacant lot into a triplex, increasing the housing supply near downtown. The proposal is to build an apartment house building type which respects the form of the neighborhood while also being compatible with the surrounding historic resources. The development will also increase the property's value, enhancing economic vitality for the city and surrounding properties. and the use conforms generally to the provisions and requirements of the chapter. The use will not be detrimental, hazardous, or disturbing to existing or future neighboring uses. It is ultimately, I view it as gently increasing housing density in an area while still complying with the overall neighborhood form. As I mentioned, the site has received approval from the Historic District Commission, meaning that the commission has ultimately found the proposed development to be compatible with the surrounding neighborhood. The site is designed to accommodate numerous forms of transportation, including vehicular, bikes, public transportation, and walking. The applicant proposes the removal and replacement of sidewalks in poor condition to enhance pedestrian safety and accessibility. The nearest bus stop is located on North Hamilton across from Second Baptist Church and is approximately 1,000 feet away, which is a bit of a hike, but it's not unreasonable. And then there's none that's anticipated for criteria 5. Regarding the special use items, it's very simple. It's not a huge deal. Ultimately, with the parking requirements, they're required to have one tree, and so they proposed a calorie pear tree, which is labeled as G, like closest to the sidewalk intersection. Ultimately, I'm just proposing that or recommending that a medium-sized tree species on the city's street tree list should be implemented instead. Regarding the building location and site arrangement, presently vacant, the driveway crosses the rear yard from Buffalo Street, leading to a 2-car garage. The applicant's driveway and garage comply with the residential nature of the surrounding neighborhood, further enhancing compatibility. A rain garden is also proposed in the rear yard, which will beautify the neighborhood while providing a unique and an unintrusive solution to stormwater management. Regarding nonconformities, there was only one small nonconformity, and that was technically the screening between conflicting land uses. Ultimately, you have 2 options. You can either do plantings or build a fence. And it's a very small section of the site plan. I could pull it up, but it's basically they have a fence that is flushed with the front wall of, I don't remember which apartment it is, if it's apartment 101 or number 2, but then the other apartment extends out a little bit more. Instead of expanding the wooden fence beyond that primary apartment, ultimately, I think planting an arborvitae would address that that screening of conflicting land uses. Additionally, the Planning Commission should waive the requirement for the dumpster or dumpster enclosure on the condition that the property manager may be required to provide an alternative waste management plan if the present plan is found to be insufficient. Regarding site access, traffic, and parking, they propose a driveway that resembles the general format of a single-family home. The proposal includes 2 designated spaces in the garage. However, there are no spaces designated outside, and the applicant doesn't provide a barrier-free space. It isn't ultimately required, but that was just something I noted. A sidewalk runs along the sidewalk within the right-of-way runs along both South Washington and Buffalo, and portions are in poor condition, so they should be repaired. And there should also, they did include 2 bike hoops that will enhance site accessibility. There are no nonconformities other than that. And then the items to address would be requiring a different tree species for the parking lot tree, and then requiring an arborvitae in front of the fence adjacent to apartment 2. General other departments and agency approvals. And then the master plan considerations, there's the Ypsilanti is sustainable. There's also anyone, no matter what age or income, can find a place to call home in Ypsilanti. And then anyone can easily walk, bike, drive, or take transit, et cetera, et cetera. Regarding images, the image on the left is the former home that is no longer there, and then the image on the right is the garage that has since been demolished. And now these other two pictures just show the existing conditions of the site. So regarding the recommendation, I am recommending approval with conditions for both the special use permit and also the site plan. So yeah.
Thank you. Are there any questions for staff? Okay. Um, we can hear from the applicant if anyone's here.
Hello again.
Welcome back.
I am Todd Ballou. I'm working with Beal Properties on this project. So we worked with Josh already and fixed a number of problems with the site plan. So I think we're down to like 3 pretty minor things. The trash management plan and the fence along the south property line and then the one tree. So no problem switching the tree to something else. And arborvitae is probably a good solution for the porch, so we don't have a fence right next to the porch. The last one, the trash management, our plan, the garage is where we're storing the trash. And this was sort of an important thing for the historic district because it avoided the need for a dumpster. But it also means that somebody has to take the trash out of the garage to the street and then ultimately back into the garage. And our plan is to have the tenants do that. I think Jeff from Beal Property might be here to address that a little further if he has anything to add to that. But we're just hoping to meet all of the requirements.
I will add, I only included that condition. I mean, I don't know if you guys remember from like the 136 North Washington application, which obviously doesn't fully apply here, but we had similar language that if refuse pickup was determined to be insufficient, then, you know, the city planner would be able to require a revised waste management plan. I'm not particularly concerned about their proposed waste management plan. It's just that if there is an issue, you know, then I would like to be able to address it there. So it's just regulatory language that most likely will not need to be implemented.
Thank you. Thank you. Motion would be in order to open public hearing.
Moved.
Support.
Moved and supported. All in favor? Any opposed? Okay. If you'd like to speak on this case before us, this is the 402 South Washington proposed triplex. Feel free to approach the podium. Have 3 minutes to speak. Is there anyone online?
Nobody who would like to speak.
Anyone in the room? Seeing none, a motion would be in order to close the public hearing. Moved
Support.
and supported. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we can open up for any additional questions from the commissioners, if there are any. If not, I'd entertain a motion.
Yeah, quick question before we get to that. Josh, you mentioned the refuse pickup plan. The trigger for the city planner to potentially require a revised waste management plan, that's multiple code violations within 365 days. Is that like within 365 days of occupation or within any 365-day period?
That's just 365 days, any like 365-day period.
That's the intent.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Well, if anyone would like to make a motion on either the special use or the site plan, feel free.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the special use permit for the proposed triplex at 402 South Washington Street with the following findings and conditions. The findings that the application complies substantially with sections 122-324 and 326. Conditions, special use approval shall be subject to the approval of the site plan, and the applicant shall replace the Callery pear tree with a medium-sized tree species on the city's street tree list.
It's been moved and supported. Is there any discussion on the motion for the special use? Hearing none, Mr. Burns, will you call the roll?
Yeah, Commissioner Jones Chance.
Yes.
Commissioner Dunwoody,
Support.
Commissioner Davis Jr., Commissioner Hollyfield,
Or
Commissioner Marin. Special use passes.
Okay, motion would be in order for the site plan if anyone wishes to make one.
I'll tackle that. I move that the planning commission approve with conditions the site plan for the proposed triplex at 402 South Washington Street with the following findings, waivers, and conditions. Finding the application complies substantially with sections 122-309 and 122-311. Waiver, the approval of a waiver from the dumpster enclosure requirements established in section 122-608. Conditions. 1, the fence along the southern property line shall extend to the front wall of apartment 2 or supplemented with vegetative screening. Condition 2, if refuse pickup is determined to be insufficient by multiple code violations within a 365-day period, the city planner may require a revised waste management plan. And condition 3, the development is subject to the approval of the building department, the historic district commission, and engineering, and any work done within the right of way shall receive approval from the Department of Public Works.
Been moved and supported. Is there any additional discussion on the site plan? Hearing none, Mr. Burns, will you call the roll?
Yeah, Commissioner Jones Chance,
Yes.
Commissioner Dunwoody,
Support.
Commissioner Davis Jr.,
Support.
Commissioner Hollyfield, Commissioner Marin. Motion passes unanimously.
Okay, thank you. We'll move on to 421 Emmett Street, multifamily renovation site plan.
Yeah, so 421 Emmett features two multifamily structures, 417 and 421, along with a parking lot, dumpster enclosure, and a 6-foot 100% opaque fence along their side and rear yards. The lot is 0.21 acres. 417 Emmett was built in the 20th century and is a 4-unit structure. Meanwhile, 421 Emmett was built in the 19th century and is a 2-unit structure. The applicant is not proposing any changes to the site. However, they are seeking to increase the number of dwelling units in 421 Emmett from 2 to 3. It is permitted by right in the core neighborhood zoning district. However, increasing the number of residential units is increasing the intensity of the property, hence requiring planning commission approval. Prior to 2010, 417 and 421 Emmett were two separate parcels, both zoned R3. At the time, both properties were non-conforming as they contained more dwelling units than the permitted 5 units at 417 and 4 at 421. These non-conforming uses were discontinued, prompting the applicant Beal Properties LLC to apply in 2010 to convert the two properties into a combined total of 6 dwelling units. On April 20th of 2010, the Planning Commission approved the applicant's special use approval. However, that approval required the applicant to combine those two lots to meet the minimum site area of at the time of 6,000 feet for 6 units or square feet for 6 units. Additional work included the paving of a parking lot, constructing a refuse enclosure, and installing landscaping. Regarding the surrounding land uses to the north, east, and south, it is multifamily housing, and to the west, it is a single-family home. Regarding the site plan criteria, there are 2 buildings on this parcel, and no changes are proposed to the site. And then, well, no changes were proposed, but then I have received revisions since then. And then there's only a few existing nonconformities. Regarding site access, traffic, and parking, the site currently provides 9 parking spaces complying with the minimum required parking quantity. The parking lot is in good condition, and screening is offered from the public view along Emmett Street. The site has great access to public transportation, being approximately 600 feet from one bus stop and 460 feet from another. Additionally, it is a highly walkable area with designated bike lanes. There are also some existing nonconformities, however, nothing that can really be, they're not needed to be addressed. Regarding department and agency approval, it's just the same thing with the building department and Department of Public Works. And then the master plan considerations are if Solani is sustainable, anyone, no matter what age or income, can can find a place to call home in Ypsilanti, and anyone can easily walk, bike, drive, or take transit, etc. I have included some of the images. You have the rain garden on the right. Just further images of 421 Emmett. And then there's the refuse enclosure, which it was trash day that day, so the trash was at the curb, which I think is, you can see kind of in the corner in front of 417 Emmett. And then this is the parking lot, and you can see I was, trying to see how the drainage of stormwater worked in the site, and it would ultimately drain to this pervious area to the far east of the property. And then the last image is the view of the sidewalk along Ballard. So yeah. Regarding the staff recommendation, staff recommends that the planning commission approve with conditions the site plan. So yeah.
Okay, would the applicant like to, are they here? Oh, got a lot of work.
Yes, I am Todd Ballou, and this is another Beal project. So we did do some revisions, as Josh mentioned, to help improve this. One is the street trees. We're happy to plant some trees. And we've also been asked to remove the existing lighting and replace it with dark sky compliant lighting. So it's just a handful of fixtures, but that would make a big difference on the site. The street trees are a little bit of a challenge because we have overhead lines. So we do prefer to plant the trees. We just picked the smallest tree available in the hopes that it'll work. However, I'm not sure if they'll get approved by Department of Public Works being underneath utility lines. So I proposed to move some of them inside of the right-of-way, but there's still a few that we don't have room for. So we would like to plant them in the right-of-way if possible, or we'd have to resort to a pay in lieu of arrangement. I will just talk about the building just a little bit because there's no site plan or no floor plan included in this. So apparently this building was a 2-unit, 3-unit, and a 4-unit somehow in the past. The construction looks pretty old, so I'm not exactly sure what's going on here, but I'll speculate. The basement, we call it Unit 3, has a separate entry and it's not connected to the house. I believe the foyer connects to 1, 2, or 3 apartments. So the actual alteration we're talking about is probably a door or not a door at the top of the stair to make the first floor into Unit 1, second floor into Unit 2.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions from commissioners?
Yeah, question for staff. You mentioned at the end of that discussion there that the stormwater on this site drains to the pervious surface to the east.
Yes.
Is that to the east of the building at 421, or is that like the neighboring property to the east of this complex?
So it's so you have I don't know if you're able to see what I'm
Yeah.
zooming in. So 421 over here, and then 417, it's all one parcel. When I was looking at the grade variation, I saw that, in this part of the parking lot, ultimately the grading was sending stormwater to the side lot of this property.
Of which property?
Of 420, it's technically called 421 Emmett, but the house was formerly 417 Emmett. It's just now part of 421 Emmett. I don't know, did that make sense?
Well, the side lot of 417 Emmett is just a neighboring parcel, right? I guess that's the question, is that like when you know, part of this is 2010 Planning Commission's problem, right? Because like that is the point at which this lot was combined or conditioned to be combined. And one of the things that is part of this site plan review is a drainage question. And if this is like draining from a lot that's servicing these two buildings onto a neighbor's property, I don't know if that like constitutes responsible stormwater management. And so that's why I'm curious, like when you say it drains to the pervious surface to the east, is that a pervious surface on this property, or is this draining a parking lot onto a neighbor's parcel?
It's on this property specifically, and there is also a rain garden as well, you know, between the two structures. Let me see if I can show you what I mean on here. So you'll see the lot line ends right where this fence is.
Mm-hmm.
And you can see that there's like almost like a little swale that does not send stormwater onto the, I mean, obviously if there's like an intense rain event, stormwater is going to ultimately go wherever, but generally it's going to be staying in this little this side of the property of 421 Emmett. I wish the picture did it justice. Like, I don't know, can you see the curvature in that image?
No.
I'll jump in here. This was designed in 2010 as a swale with an underdrain that goes to the storm system. So there's a little pipe that comes up there. You'll see.
Is that what this is right here? I don't know if you can see. I think that's what that is.
So this does capture all the stormwater and it's intended to infiltrate and go into the underdrain.
Okay.
Same as the other rain garden, they both connect to the same.
Does that address your concern?
Yeah, I see the item on I'm looking at sheet A2 for the site plan. I'm seeing the item that is labeled as drain clean out. I'm trying to make sure I understand where the connection to the storm system is.
I will add this is a use that is permitted by right, and these are existing conditions. They aren't changing anything about their pervious surfacing, and I've not received any complaints from the neighbor of their property flooding as a result of stormwater flowing onto their property from 421 Emmett.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair. We have a site plan review and one of the site conditions is drainage. So I think we have a bit of a responsibility to make sure it's accounted for well. I'm poking through kind of the pieces of the site plan. I think that satisfies my ask here.
Yeah, well, Mr. Dunwoody's looking through that. Are there any other questions or concerns about any of the conditions? Okay.
Like to make a motion?
Please do.
Approve with conditions the site plan for the multifamily renovation, increasing the number of dwelling units from 2 to 3 at 421 Emmett Street with the following findings and conditions, finding that the application complies substantially with sections 122-309 and 311. Conditions, the applicant shall plant 4 street trees from the city's approved street tree list along Emmett Street and one along Ballard. If utility constraints exist, the applicant may plant trees listed on the city's approved street tree list elsewhere on the site or pay a fee in lieu. 2, the development is subject to the approval of the building department, and any work done within the right-of-way shall receive approval from the Department of Public Works.
Support.
Been moved and supported. Is there any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, Mr. Burns, will you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Jones Chance,
Yes.
Commissioner Dunwoody,
Support.
Commissioner Davis Jr., Commissioner Hollyfield,
Support.
Commissioner Marins. Motion passes unanimously.
Okay, next item on the agenda is 315 Washtenaw Avenue, a multifamily renovation.
All right, so 315 Washtenaw was built in the 19th century, and it featured a small lot with a gravel driveway and a 1,860 square foot structure with 3 residential units. The lot is 0.081 acres, and it is located within the core neighborhood zoning district. While 4-unit residential buildings are permitted by right in the zoning district, the applicant is increasing the intensity of the use. And I'm realizing that I put duplex to triplex. It's meant to put triplex to quadplex, so I apologize. Regarding, back in 2019, the applicant applied to convert this 3-unit structure into a 6-unit structure, and the Planning Commission approved the proposal. However, the applicant failed to diligently pursue the approved work, and the site plan and special use expiration letter was mailed out on July 27th of 2022. Regarding the surrounding land uses, they're all multifamily, and they're all located within the core neighborhood zoning district. Regarding building location and site arrangements, there is one building on the parcel and minimal changes to the site are proposed. Regarding nonconformities and existing nonconformities, there are a few. The non-compliant matters I wanted to specifically talk about were with section 122-608 with the dumpster enclosure, the lighting for 122-609, landscape element, the street trees. So the items to address would include that the Planning Commission may want to consider waiving the requirement for the dumpster enclosure due to the site's constraints. If the requirement is waived, the applicant does need to provide a refuse removal plan. The applicant should provide specs compliant with 122-609 of their lighting. They should provide a compliant landscaping plan, and they will need receive approval from the Department of Public Works for the proposed street trees. I have a suspicion that there are probably utility constraints in that area, and so I'm not confident that the Department of Public Works would approve the street trees located there. And then finally, the Planning Commission may want to consider conditioning the screening of the structure's utility equipment. Regarding site access, traffic, and parking, the site featured a gravel driveway, which is not adequate for the proposed use. It does appear that the driveway may accommodate upwards of 3 vehicles, though a parking lot is required for this use. The property is located within a highly walkable and bikeable area. But I did also want to point out that preserving the gravel driveway preserves pervious surfacing on the site, which can help accommodate increasing rainfall. Additionally, the site does not feature bike hoops, which is crucial for multimodal accessibility. Because of the site constraints regarding including a parking lot, it would be recommended that the applicant provide covered bike hoops. Regarding the nonconformities and existing nonconformities, there are a few items. And I specifically highlighted the lack of bike parking spaces. Regarding agency approval, is the same as the previous applications. And then for the master plan consideration, there's the Ypsilanti is sustainable, anyone, no matter what age or income, etc. And then anyone can easily walk, bike, or drive or take transit. And then here are images of the site. You can see the back of the site where you have the utility visible. And here's more angles of the site. And then this is the gravel driveway. Keep in mind, like it's basically just the house and the gravel driveway that make up the lot, and that's about it. This alley in the back is not a public alley. It's actually owned by 120 North Hamilton. However, it does look like people overall in that area tend to use it as a public alley. And then this is the condition of the sidewalk along Washtenaw. Regarding the site plan, staff is recommending postponement, and it's, due to the lack of the trash management plan, the need for repair of the sidewalk, not having the specs, for the lighting, and then lack of a landscaping plan, and so on, so yeah.
Thank you. Are there any questions for staff?
Yeah, one here if I could start. Josh, to hear you talk about the application, I feel like you were expressing that the use requires a parking lot here and that the existing gravel drive is inadequate. And then when I look in the packet, your recommendation notes that that's an existing nonconformity, but there are no conditions that address the parking. Did I misunderstand your recommendation about a need for parking?
There ultimately wasn't a recommendation for changing what is existing, for the current driveway, just because there is no possible way to include a, compliant parking lot on this property. So really the only option is to maintain, the existing driveway. However, that would mean that you would then just have basically 3 stacked car spaces, and that in itself can obviously be challenging and isn't ideal for site accessibility, but there are constraints to the site, and so it's just not possible to install a parking lot.
Okay. I think that begs the question about whether an increase to the intensity of the use without more robust parking isn't warranted, but I'll save that for the discussion part of the evening.
Thank you. Are there any other questions for staff? Okay, is the applicant present?
Good evening, my name is Carl Staffeld. My wife and I are the owners of this property. We're just like to say that we're here to work with the planning commission as best we can. So take all of your recommendations to heart and make the changes necessary.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, are there any questions or concerns about the remaining conditions here? I'll save it for later.
Go ahead, Brian.
No, it can wait. It's just a general thing.
Yeah, so a couple of the conditions presented here, like I'm thinking about the parking, right? And for where this site is, we are allowed to take some liberties with the parking requirement, right? Because we're in this walkable urban district. So we have parking discounts that would require 3 spaces ultimately, right?
I believe so, but also residential uses, and I believe that also includes multifamily is not held to the same, they don't have a maximum.
But they have a minimum.
They have a minimum, yes.
Okay, and the minimum is 7.
The minimum 7 spaces for,
I'm just reading out of the requirement noted in page 10 of, or I guess page 161 of the overall packet, page 10 of staff's report on this site.
that. You said it was 161?
Yeah,
Or-
161.
Okay.
Because I think the question that I'm gonna ask here, or the question that I think we need to answer here is with the site plan review, like we can talk about conditions to it. But if some of these things don't fit, it might be because they don't fit. Right. And like I'm not one to get hung up on parking typically, but I think the site is both underparked and because of the gravel drive, it's not striped. Right. And so I think we have an issue of like having, like we're not dimensioning what this would be if it were parked with parallel spaces, right? We're sort of foregoing that like there isn't parking that is striped, there isn't parking that is dimensioned. And were any of those things to be done, it would be inadequate to meet the requirement. So I don't let parking get in the way of a lot of these things, but it's a lot to squeeze into a site of this size. I think that's especially true with the alley on the south end of the site not being a public alley.
Okay, so just so as not to wade too deeply into debate territory, are there any other questions about any of the conditions? Any points of clarifications? If not, I'd entertain a motion and then we can have some more robust discussion about the details.
Well, looking at section 122-692, we don't have the authority to waive beyond 20% of the required minimum.
Yeah, we couldn't waive that if it weren't an existing nonconformity. But because it's an existing nonconformity, that gives us the flexibility to.
It's changing use though.
Well, the planning commission, even though, yes, it's changing use, the planning commission did approve 6 units back in 2019 with the exact same, I think they actually required the removal of the driveway and just required landscaping.
Irrelevant. I mean, that's expired. And
Mhm.
I mean, the use is changing, so suddenly we have a new parking requirement.
Mhm.
I would rather, I mean, yes, we absolutely have we could use more housing, but we also have a property condition issue in Ypsilanti. And I would sooner see a paved drive with a 3-unit than a gravel drive that shoves in a 4th unit in there. And permitting it just because it's the existing gravel drive.
Well, I don't think a 3-unit with a paved drive is on the table, right? Like it is an existing 3-unit, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
Right.
with a gravel drive. And so I don't think we can do anything. We can't do anything.
Yeah, I mean, I obviously know that, but I'm
Yeah.
saying if we permit, I would not feel comfortable permitting something that's gonna have that's not gonna also request that the condition be improved when I think that's probably an issue with the site as well. And
Can you say the very first part of what you said? Because I feel like my brain was slow to processing and
we have the authority to waive up to 20% of the minimum.
okay. You said we
We do.
we do. Okay. For some reason I heard we don't. So okay. That's why I was like, what's that? Okay, thank you.
Okay, so it sounds like we're wanting to do some discussion here, so a motion would be appropriate. Oh, Mr. Davis, are you cooking?
No, because I'm
Okay.
gonna change the packet. I mean, I'll go ahead. Sure. I recommend that planning commission postpone the site plan for the application at 315 Washington, with the findings, the application does not comply with section 122, 309, 311. And the condition, the applicant shall provide a trash management plan. 2, the applicant shall replace the sidewalk in poor, repair and or replace the sidewalk in poor condition. 3, the applicant shall provide the specifications compliant with this, with section 122, 609 of their lighting. The applicant shall provide a landscaping plan compliant with Article 6, Division 3 of the zoning ordinance. The applicant shall confirm with DPW if street trees may be planted within the Washtenaw right of way. And lastly, the applicant shall install 2 bike hoops.
And just before I ask for a second, just a point of clarification, are you meaning to postpone this indefinitely or to a date certain?
Excuse me, thank you. To postpone to the next planning commission meeting.
Okay, it's been moved
Or
and supported. Any discussion?
If we postpone to that date, but these conditions aren't complete, then we're just doing this whole rigmarole again. So we don't have to set a date with postponement, especially if there are conditions attached to it, because then once they're satisfied, that would trigger when it returns to us. So I don't think should attach that date.
That's just what it means to postpone, but we can, I mean, it can be indefinite.
What do you mean? That's what it means to postpone.
I guess parliamentarily, that's what it means to postpone. Maybe this isn't meant that way, but
Well, tabling's the next meeting.
yeah. You can table the next meeting, you can postpone to a date certain, or you can postpone indefinitely.
Okay.
I thought we agreed. Never mind.
but we have a motion on the floor, so you actually have to address that.
So that's a friendly amendment, I'm suggesting, of that motion,
We could do an amendment, but we would have to revote
Clarify
on
what
the,
your amendment is.
just to remove the date of the postponement.
I'll accept that amendment.
we'll probably talk about that later, but just the friendly amendment thing, but that works. Okay. So it's been amended. Is there any more discussion on the motion? Hearing none. Mr. Burns, will you call the roll, please?
Yeah. Commissioner Jones Chance,
Yes.
Commissioner Dunwoody,
Oppose?
Commissioner Davis Jr.,
Oppose.
Commissioner Hollyfield, Commissioner Marin. Motion passes.
Okay, that takes us to the bylaw review. We looks like we haven't adopted, changed or adopted this since 2020. And we should be doing it annually. Well, I guess I'll just say what I thought we should put on the agenda. We do have some particular rules that we follow, some by statute and others of our own making. And we should be governed by Robert's rules, but we have a few quirks that we don't do, and I think it would be appropriate just in order for us to expedite our meetings and to cut down on maybe circular discussions and debate turning into argument, which doesn't happen a ton here. If we kind of set more of a structure there, one of those items I do have a question about, conflicts of interest and abstentions. And maybe Ms. Marin would know, is it by statute that you cannot participate in the discussion? The only reason I ask is because it seems like someone who lives closest, for example, to to a subject property might have information that the rest of us could use.
So wait, is your question if that wouldn't be considered a conflict of interest? Is that what you're saying?
Either a conflict of interest, or if you live within the statutory distance of a subject property.
No, I don't think that's a conflict unless you are their direct neighbor, but how it should work is that if you have a conflict, you state that you have a conflict, what it is, and then the commission can decide and by vote if that's a conflict, and then they leave and that person does not participate in any discussion. They're outside the room.
And then similarly for neighboring properties, and I think by statute that's within 300 feet, we have sort of removed the person from deliberation. I know the 300 feet part, that is statutory. Do you happen to know if the deliberation part is? It just seems like someone who lives close to a subject property might have information that we are just not gonna get, unless they give public comment, which I guess is an avenue.
Right, we can just choose not to participate in the meeting and come and give us our public comment. So we could zoom in instead of walk in.
But what if it's a long agenda and there are other items that the commissioner wants to participate in?
The member with the conflict of interest may choose to remain in the meeting room, but must abstain from commenting and communicating during the case and its deliberation.
That's slippery because they could be in the back making eyebrows and that's communication.
Written comments may be transmitted to the chair and or city planner by the member before the meeting and may be read aloud by the chair.
Are you reading our bylaws or?
I
Okay.
am, yeah.
And the only reason I
I think
wondered.
that's why Brian's asking.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I only wondered if that was our rule or if that was from the zoning act.
No.
Okay.
Yeah, we added that. And I think we added that because the first time that we ran into a conflict, nobody knew how to proceed.
Okay.
Whether that's the right way to proceed, I'm not sure. But I mean, in my tenure here, that's been added to the bylaws.
Are there any strong feelings either way?
I think the idea behind and Phil, correct me if like I'm misrepresenting this, but when we talk about not communicating, I think the idea is that somebody who's abstaining shouldn't be able to navigate the conversation among the planning commission, right? So that is the purpose of like not communicating. So I think there's a space for an abstaining member to continue to comment in the same way that the public does, if there is a public hearing. But that's an if, and that isn't really addressed in the bylaws. Right. It doesn't help us that I abstain from a vote because of a conflict if I'm still able to steer the conversation how I want it to go. Right. And so I think it's right that we don't get to continue to deliberate to the same extent that sitting planning commissioners would.
Everyone
Mhm.
feels similarly
Mhm.
enough?
And I know there's a lot of versions of communication, but ultimately, like I think it would be inappropriate to continue to have an abstaining member commenting and communicating. And I just think as somebody who's interested in the case that kicking them out of the room feels unnecessary too. Like I don't hate where we land here, but it's not black and white.
Okay. And then on our Article 6 procedures, I think traditionally we have been after item E here, when the applicant presents their case, we have been entertaining questions from commissioners to the applicant. I can only think of a couple times where that's maybe gone sideways. But I don't know, it seems like it would be faster maybe if we grouped all the questioning for both the applicant and for staff together after the applicant spoke. Maybe not have two separate times for back and forth, or possibly direct all of our questions through staff and not engage directly with applicants at all.
I mean, applicants are applying to be some sort of member of our community. We are community members. We're not a legislative body. We're volunteers. So speaking directly to applicants is, I think, very appropriate. I think we could speed it up by combining them. That would require my viewing of it, the applicant to sit here and be a part of the staff discussion. And I think my greater concern with that would be the applicant wanting to disputing what staff is presenting.
Yeah. I think
Rather-
we're seeing some of that.
I don't think our meetings are long because we just sit and gab. I think our meetings tend to be long because we are doing work.
Yeah, you know, I've long been torn about whether the applicant comment should be a part of the public comment, because I think that was a mistake that I've made a lot, having chaired a handful of meetings, is opening the public comment and inviting the applicant to be the first public commenter.
Mm.
And you know, the applicant is a member of the public, and so I don't think that that's inappropriate. The thing that I get torn about is I feel like it invites a comparison if public commenters are timed and the applicant is untimed. Because oftentimes if there are commenters here that are contentious, they are limited how much they're able to state their case, and the applicant is not limited in a similar fashion. That doesn't, you know, that doesn't always present a problem, but it has in the past. And I think that for the purpose of public discourse, it can be limiting.
So, if what I'm hearing is correct, so we do want to have some questions of the applicant. And it's not the end of the world if they are in two separate sections here. Currently, our procedures do not allow questioning of the applicant. So, we should add that into section E on Article 6, section 2. And then the other thing is a Robert's Rules things is I and J should be flipped, and I think that actually does speed things up a bit. The other, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Sorry. So I think I want to put this in the minutes for the folks that aren't here. So I think that change, I don't have an issue with it. I think as a procedure for the commissioners, I'm year 6. This I think that change I think means we need to discuss more, talk more if we have discussion generally when staff is presenting their case or before we do our public hearings or public comments. I don't really understand the point of doing large deliberations within the motion.
Oh, well, I guess, yeah, are we moving to align ourselves more with sort of parliamentary procedure, or are we going to just keep doing our own thing? And I think the reason we have that is to condense the discussion to a topic. And we might have discussion, but it could all be moot if there's no motion ever brought to the floor. And the point of the discussion is to debate the motion itself.
Instead of flipping I and J, though, it should be motion is made, not motion.
Yeah, there's no
and
decision, right? And likewise, I mean, there have been times certainly where we've had some robust discussion and then a motion's made and then bam, it's roll call and we never actually discuss something that changed during the course of the motion. And so you either have to vote up or down based on what you heard, and then we have, and just not ideal, I don't think.
I get why that procedure isn't ideal. But I think the correction here, like I had hesitations with the final site plan that we reviewed tonight, right? And I expressed those in this meeting, but following this procedure, I don't know that I'm comfortable making or seconding a motion, right? Because like I have to take a stance on something that we haven't had an opportunity to deliberate on, right? And so like somebody has to make a motion, and in this case, somebody did make a motion, but like I certainly wasn't going to. I certainly wasn't ready to make a motion.
Well, Mike made it, and then voted against it.
Correct.
Right.
So just to follow the procedure. So,
And that is another thing. I mean, if you make or second a motion, you should, it's assumed that you are voting for it. So just putting it on the table in order to discuss it is not ideal. I mean, if,
Well, but so
But
if
that's
if
okay
if
for
you
As far as Robert's rule of order, you can make a motion and not support it. That's fine.
you can, but it's not,
Now let's, now let's talk
Recommended.
about making a bylaw change. Then Robert rules would enforce that. But just to arbitrarily just say that this is the way it should go, that would not be so. So,
I think we should toss out Robert's rules entirely and go to a
Well,
collective
I
decision-making
think what
body.
I'm saying here is if like somebody has to take a stance on a motion if you think the motion is the first step in the discussion. Right? And that is prompting somebody to take a stance on something we've had no opportunity to deliberate on. And sometimes that might be easy and straightforward, but like tonight I would have sat here, indefinitely not making a motion on the last thing. Because there's a lot that I felt like had to be figured out with that site plan.
mhm.
And so especially if you have an expectation that somebody who presents or supports a motion votes for it, then you're kind of tying, like, our hands would be tied, right? We can't deliberate until a motion is made, and we can't oppose the motion once it's made.
I guess
Why
I don't,
couldn't you oppose the motion? I mean, there
Because
was
you just
some-
said that there is an implicit expectation that you vote for a motion that you either move or support.
Yeah, Mr. Holyfield has a different view of that, and we can consult, Robert's rules if we feel we need to. But if you didn't make that motion or support it, then there certainly is opportunity for discussion.
I wonder.
And
if-
I wonder if,
sorry.
I mean, if there were issues, why can't you avail yourself of that time?
Could I offer
Yeah.
perhaps a compromise? I do think regardless, Michelle's note here about I and J, motion and decision in this bylaws being separated.
Yeah, decision should not be in.
Yeah, it needs to happen. So it needs to be motion, discussion, decision. I'm wondering if there is, before that we open public comment and public hearing, I'm wondering if the commission asks questions of staff is not explanatory enough. If there should be a specific order of procedure that is deliberation.
I mean, I think that's sort of what we have been doing by default.
Mhm.
And I don't think much more is accomplished by doing that, other than, we get into debates on things that might not even be factors when it comes to making a motion, when it comes time to make a motion. And then there's sort of back and forth. It's not orderly at all. And
So
we
other
get into
than,
sort of circular argument instead of actual debate on the merits of a.
other than
proposed motion.
me being a contrarian and irritating everybody on the commission, what is it we're trying to solve here? Like,
I don't
we're
think that's something
talking-
we're
it
trying to
feels-
solve.
Well, it feels like we're talking like there's a problem with what we're doing and we're trying to come up with a solution, but I don't know what the problem is.
I think one of the problems is that it gets lengthy, and then we do wind up sort of in argument territory instead of debate, which casually I don't mind. And yeah, and if we were doing this at noon on a Saturday, that's cool. But we aren't. And then we've got people who, wait for public comment. We've got people who wait for their cases to be heard. I think we should be efficient, and we have, Robert's rules is a blueprint for doing that. And I don't think we're doing it better. And it's not any one person. I mean, I have my tendencies as well.
I think I really quite despise Robert's Rules of Order. So I think I'd love for us to actually have a discussion about moving to 6 p.m. Like,
Yes.
I don't hate it.
Love it.
Yeah.
Love it. All meetings should be at 6. I've been saying this.
and this is someone who doesn't want to come here at 6 p.m. But I would sacrifice the 6 p.m. to not do the 10 p.m. and then for us to not get into this tired, argumentative rather than deliberative debating of the applications. So, but we're not the only people affected by the change. So I think, staff sitting here, I don't know if there's any council issues or something like that. So something we should discuss in more detail.
I appreciate an effort to make the proceedings more concise. I just don't think that a motion being the start of our deliberation uh, gives us the opportunity to come to agreement on what needs to be discussed on a case. And I mean that not just like, I don't mean to build a consensus about whether something's going to be approved or rejected, but like tonight, for example, I feel like we had discussion about what was required based on whether a site was residential or commercial, right? That doesn't have anything to do with whether we're going to approve or reject, but it helps us shape what we think as a commission needs to be considered in our motion. Right. I think that is important deliberation to have before a motion is made.
I agree.
Okay, so it sounds like what we're talking about is not just questions for staff. And it's more,
I'm talking about this coming after the public hearing.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, maybe that moves. I mean, maybe that whole thing just moves down. So yeah, I take the point that maybe what you guys are talking about is more deliberative. I just want to save the debate until after there is a motion. So if there is a way that we can sort of ask questions, get clarification early in the process without entering into, here's my opinion on this, here's why I don't think we should do this, and instead just gather information during the time before a motion is made, and then save the opinion stuff for after, I think that achieves what we're going for here, or at least what I'm going for here. And I think that's maybe the breakdown that we've had in the past.
You want
we
a
get into
line
debate,
of delineation between
Yes.
information gathering and debate.
Correct.
Yeah.
Does that sound reasonable?
I understand. Yeah, I understand that. I just, as long as there is an opportunity for the information gathering discussion before motions. I think that's the part that I feel strongly about.
Yeah, so I think we really need to change the wording of D, commissioners ask questions of staff. I think that's the wrong wording if we're talking about this.
I'm okay with the commissioner ask questions of staff before the public hearing. I think that our deliberation should be after the public hearing.
Then let's eliminate that then.
Eliminate what?
Asking questions. I don't, because there's, from what I've observed, a question, you ask the question to staff, that triggers me to ask a question regarding a merit of the things the staff has said. Now we're deliberating where we're supposed to be asking questions. And I think we just need to be honest, the 7 of us are never going to agree and then implement only asking questions.
Well, not with that attitude.
I will never do that. And Brian will simply have to remove me from every commission meeting. And what's the point of that?
No, we need quorum.
Exactly.
No, that makes sense. So,
I don't know what that means for tonight. I think that means maybe you need to,
yeah, I mean, we can bring this back.
yes.
It's getting a little long in the tooth here, and we're not going to make a
There-
great decision after
there's-
30.
The irony.
There's
It's
an-
hitting my stride.
There's another tidbit that has never happened.
Oh,
I was
there we go.
as far as it relates to Robert's Rules of Order. And which for me means that we need to make a bylaw change, because under Robert's Rule of Order, you can only vote on a motion one time per meeting.
I'm sorry, no, I
You can
just,
only vote on a motion one time per meeting. So if you
Well-
voted up or voted down, you can't address it again till the next meeting unless there's something in the bylaws that state that you can have multiple votes on a particular item.
But you can make a different motion about the same subject, correct?
No. Because if you're making a motion about a site plan, just being specific, well, you can't vote it down, then come back and make another motion about the same site plan. Now you can make a motion on a different site plan, which means that would be a totally different address.
So if there's a motion to approve, the motion fails, then what happens is they just have to come back at the next meeting?
Unless we do a bylaw change where we can do multiple votes on a particular item.
yeah,
Let's maybe research that a little.
yeah. Because if what you're saying, then we need to add something that when conditions or findings are changed, the motion is changed.
Yeah,
not the
and,
same
and which I'm
motion.
fine,
Yeah.
because the Robert Rules of Order enforces bylaws, not vice versa. Robert
Mhm.
Rules doesn't dictate the bylaws, it just
Mhm.
enforces the bylaws.
Mhm.
But if we're going by Robert's Rules of Order only, and it's not in the bylaws, then we fall back on Robert's Rules, which says one vote per motion.
Which is even worse than Robert's Rules, even worse than our bylaws, so. yes, that's-
One vote,
Phil?
one vote per motion, though, I feel like is different than one motion per subject. Right? Like if for Michelle's example, if there's a vote to approve a site plan and that vote gets rejected, and then there's a vote to postpone the site plan, right? By your suggestion that we can't make a vote on the same subject twice in one evening,
Yeah,
we
same
wouldn't be able
evening,
to,
yeah.
we wouldn't be able to postpone it after that. My understanding was more like if the first vote fails, we can't re-vote on the same motion, but we can make a different motion relating to the same subject. But I think Brian's right that
I think, yeah, I will, maybe let's bring this.
Because I mean, I'm just saying, if we're strictly following Robert's Rules of Order, if we want to be okay voting 10 times on the same subject, I'm fine with that, but it should state it, is all I'm saying.
Mhm.
That's all I'm saying.
I think what I'll do is if I'm reading the room, maybe we bring this back next meeting
Yeah.
if there's a shorter agenda. And I think it's,
Because it happened tonight. It hasn't happened
Yeah.
before.
I think it's unfair to expect Josh to know all these rules, even though he's the designated parliamentarian.
I would
Um,
definitely need to.
So I will bring my Robert's Rules book with me next time in case there are questions or things, and maybe be able to have a discussion with the current edition.
I will warn you guys that next meeting's also going to be a really heavy agenda.
Lovely.
Yeah. So
Okay, so is everyone okay with where we sort of ended there?
I move to open the public comment.
Lovely. Any support?
Support.
Moved and supported. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, if there's anyone in the room who would like to speak, you'll have 3 minutes to do so. Is there anyone online?
nobody is raising their hand indicating that they would
Is,
like to.
is
Anyone in the room?
there anybody that has public comment of y'all?
Aha.
Well, I know, not you, sir. I'm not.
Certainly, I took the opportunity to be here tonight, and many of the supporters of the Metropolitan family is here tonight. You want me to take the mic over, Charlie? Let me say this to you, though. I want to point out exactly, you have an outstanding staff coordinator. Does an excellent job of staying neutral and making sure the commission, let me say, get the right information for those who apply before you. Very professional. Certainly appreciate working with him, and I think we all do. Let me just point out, it was just one particular basic point in reference to the metropolitan sign issue for me, sitting there listening, is one that Josh was given an assignment, and I think Mike made the commissioner made the recommendation that you to compare it with apples And I think that's a comparison of maybe what the other city and what's the rest of the city in respect looks like in reference to signs and what is the particular maybe considered. Let me just point out that you must also take into consideration the historical perspective the Metropolitans put in, and also all of the churches on the South End. I think the church administrator, Tyrone, last time pointed that out in terms of the history of Metropolitan Church and how far it goes back in history before we had, let me say, planning commission consultants. And very unfortunate that Metropolitan and many other churches on the South End. I was born on Jefferson Street, so I could speak about the South End. And my wife family has been here since the 1800s, so I could speak a little bit on Ypsilanti. When it came to the end about where Metropolitan stood, before we even had a deliberating and consultants that dealt with planning, Metropolitan existed. And I hope that we bring back that history and share the history of Metropolitan and many other churches on the South End. And sharing that with you, we trusted city government. And that's not you pointing you out as planning commission members, but I think we trusted government so much, we allowed them to send planning consultants and design the community and let me say, create somewhat good planning in some aspects, but not taking in consideration everything that existed on the South End. So we were basically put in this situation because, once again, trust. And let me just say, I monitored planning many times when I served 6 years on this council because I was always concerned about the rezoning and the zoning aspect. And some of it I did challenge with Mr. Barr and the mayor at the time. One is because I think we lose the perspective. We are a city with a lot of pride in individuals as well as a community. And diversity exists here more than most communities in Washtenaw County. But most thing we miss sometimes is the heritage that exists. And Ypsilanti had a design that was unique. I'm unfortunate to come up in that area. That's why I joined NAACP, National Social Investment for Colored People, 8 years old, because it was very discriminatory and very racist. And I don't usually do that word lightly. I don't think anybody ever heard me use that word, but it was true. We stayed south of Michigan Avenue, and very few stayed on River Street and North Street. But in that consideration, all of the churches were located on one section of this particular community. One section, whether it was Watland, Jefferson, Madison, Monroe, or whether it was First Avenue or Second Avenue. And in consideration of that,
I hate to cut you off, but
you know how you do apples and oranges.
I got you.
The apples and oranges with you to talk about we had no choice but to locate churches on the South End. And when these deliberations take place on planning that limits us, it means limiting, but also once again discriminating against us because we could not move. We neither could build in certain parts of this city. So we'll be back. And it's not based upon just what's right for planning, but the historical consideration was not taken in place for this church and other churches on the South End that was discriminated against and where they could locate and where they could build. We'll see you next time, guys. We'll be back.
Thank you, Mr. Peterson. Is there anyone else in the room who would like to speak?
Good evening, all, and for the lateness, I'm Tyrone Hampton. What I have to try to share is for you to just take a look at laws, why, how, purpose, and intent. You create the laws to do certain things. They came in and changed the overall structure. I want to be clear. If you go back and you take a look at that section in 1924, when the building was first built over there at 431 Hawkins, 1924, and then on its adjustments that it made to change the name as it exists now in 1953. You look at that section and how it was. It wasn't R1. And what has happened, it was a commercial entity. They moved in and throughout that commercial entity, which is Metropolitan Memorial Baptist Church. But it's the purpose and intent for the R1 for somebody else to get rich and close certain things down. We haven't moved. We're still there. It is very difficult. And all I can say at this point, based on us having been there and the laws changed to fit something else that didn't apply to a commercial entity that was already there, based on that, I would hope that in your findings, when you do what you do, you look at the truths and hopefully grant us what we have been looking for. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else in the audience who would like to speak? Okay, and then there are, I should have mentioned this before, but it is 3 minutes, and if you hear the music go off, that's why. If I interrupt, that's why.
This won't take that long,
Okay.
I guarantee you. My name is Calvin Cuban, and I've been a member of Metropolitan and was married there. I've been married 57 years. S.O. Robinson was the one that married me. And because of him, I have a great, great belief and love for him, and a love for his church. Like a person said, we have to change. At one time over there on Hawkins Street, if you were selling drugs, marijuana, they would pick you up. Now they've got a store there selling marijuana, and everybody's fat and happy. Well, all we're asking for is just to say, look, we've got a church here. We've got good people in here. Come on in and join us and see what happens dealing with God. So what I'm saying is, give away all the stuff. Give us a chance. Give us what we're asking for. Because, like they say, change, when it comes time to vote, when it comes time to do things like that help you sit in those seats. So you can go ahead, continue on. Because we don't mind marching if we have to. Understand that. We don't mind going to get a lawyer. We don't care. Because we want to get it did for us. With you or without you. You must probably do it with you. But understand that. And that's all I got to say.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak? Come on up.
I've been sitting there praying for this meeting. I've had each one of you in my prayers that the Lord would direct and sing what we are about. We're about saving souls, seeking oneness with our Lord and Savior, and building community. And we feel very strongly about that mission. That's why we're here. My husband said to me, he was putting lights up around our house. And I said, honey, why are you putting up so many lights? And he said to me, when people come to see us, I want them to be able to see who we are and where we're at. We are a church that puts its lights on so that darkness can see us, but see us as a beacon light in the community. You say pride, diversity, heritage, we represent all three. And that's my words for you this evening. Look at us. We're kind people, but we're determined people. What that does for us is save souls. And we're in the business of building our community.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who'd like to give comment? Okay. None? Anyone online?
If you would like to speak, raise your hand, please. Okay. Yep. Yeah, someone has raised their hand.
Okay.
You should be able to unmute now.
Good evening. I would like to just make an observation that continues to go in my mind daily, thinking about that there is a traffic light at the corner of Hawkins and Harriet Street, which provides illumination to the homes in that area. And I just cannot understand why the committee feels that illumination of a sign would be any more disturbing on our church grounds than the traffic signal that's down the street. And I also want to add, and I've said this before, we have lots adjacent on each side of our building where the sign, the illumination would not hinder or be a disturbance to neighbors. Our neighbors are empty lots. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any others for public comment? Anyone else online? Oh, come right up.
Elder Smith from Metropolitan. And I just like to say this. I lived on Harriet Street at 656 Harriet for 17 years. You guys have a tall sign that illuminates light off of 94. That light shined in my bedroom. I could see it from my bedroom. I never complained about it, and all kinds of advertisement is on it. So I cannot understand why we can't have a sign at 431 Hawkins that would display godly messages and inviting people into church. So I don't understand why that sign on 94 can illuminate in people's houses. That I stayed on Harriet 17 years in the brown house, and it illuminated in my bedroom window. I could see it every night, all morning. But nobody wants to approve a sign on 431 Hawkins that sits low and will be turned off and turned on at a certain time.
Thank you. So maybe we should, if there's no other public comment, a motion would be in order to close public comment.
So moved.
Moved and supported. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay. Josh, before folks filter out, would you mind just recapping what was decided regarding the electronic message boards tonight? Just so that, it seems like people think that we voted to not approve them, so.
Yeah, so next month, I will be proposing revised language for the EMB zoning ordinance. I'll be looking at the direct surrounding communities and seeing what they're doing with the EMBs. And then also looking to see if there's any other standards that could be considered that would be best practice with dark sky compliance, but also with sign illumination overall. So this is going to be a further question. It will be back on our next meeting, or this will be a further discussion. It will be back on the next meeting, and there will be draft language as well. So it won't be a public hearing per se just yet until it won't be a public hearing just yet next month until the Planning Commission fully agrees on what will be changing, if anything, if they decide that anything is going to change. But yeah, stay tuned. It's still a work in progress.
So if we all agreed on the draft language that you presented next meeting,
Yeah.
then which would be September, then in October, you would have a text amendment set with a
Council.
public hearing. And if we supported that and it passed, it would then go to city council in November for the first reading, and then a city council meeting in December for a second reading.
Yeah.
And then in December or January,
Mhm.
it would go up for a vote.
Yeah. And then it would be enacted late January or sometime in February. That's-
Assuming there's no further deliberations in any of those times. So
Yes.
Just a timeline for folks that
Yep.
might be interested.
Motion to
Okay,
adjourn.
all right. Motion to adjourn is on the table.
Or
That's
Who supported it? Good. Okay, cool. Meeting's adjourned.
I was waiting to give it an eye. I think there's.
Hey.